Thanks very much for waiting. It's nice to see everyone today. We will get started momentarily about this particular film, which is called The World Is Not Enough. So just hold tight and we will begin momentarily. In the meantime, you can use the chat and say hello if you want. Hello, greetings. Is the sound okay? I hope the sound's okay. I don't have my mic, so I'm just using the iPhone. Just let me know. Great, thank you, blah blah. Thank you. Oops. There we go. And blah blah. Hello, you say great opening this film with Bilbao, yes, and London, yes. Shame about the rest of the film. And Kevin O'Connell says, "Hi everyone, hope you're all well. Really looking forward to this one. This is where Brosnan's Bond comes into his own." Erwin is here. Hello. It's nice to see you. Thank you. Mike is here. Hello. Kubrick lover. Thank you. John, hello. It's nice to see you. Konnichiwa, Daisuke-san. Thank you. Konnichiwa. That's very kind of you. So, let's see. We'll just give it another moment or so, and then we will begin. Damn fool. Hello. Molly, I need a clean bill of health. For streaming. Coming through just fine. Thank you. Joaquin is here. Hello, greetings. Dinobot Kiryu, hello. Today marks the 66th anniversary of Godzilla Raids again. Thank you. Seth, hello. It's nice to see you. It's great as always to see you, my friend. I hope you're well. Give it one more moment, and we will begin. Once again, the topic of discussion is the film The World Is Not Enough. I'll try to do it in my best Brosnan impersonation later. Okay, just getting started here. Again, this is going to be a discussion of the film The World Is Not Enough, the 99 film, Michael Apted directing, which is an interesting detail as well. And Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, and Sophie Marceau and Robert Carlyle, and Denise Richards, yes. And Robbie Coltrane, of course. And Judi Dench, of course, yes. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about, so... And let's get started then. So if you are okay, my friends, we shall begin with the discussion. So, oh, I'm sorry, just one more thing, and let me just finish this. Sorry, just one more thing. There we go. And John Cleese, yes, of course, of course. Occasional Feel Good is here. Hello. And let's see. Erwin says, just rewatched tonight. I forgot about quite a bunch because I always get the post-GoldenEye Brosnan films confused. That's just like Pierce Brosnan's comment in the documentary, right? Everything or Nothing, yes. I remember GoldenEye. Everything else is a blur, you know. Yeah. So, okay. Anyway, and Lainey Lane is here. Hello. It's nice to see you. Occasional feel good. Thank you very much. Goodbye, Steed. Hello, goodbye, Steed. I was just reading some of your nice comments, by the way, on another video. I think it was one of the disaster movie discussions videos, so I'll get to responding. So thank you so much. All right, and let's get started with this 1999 film discussion. The World Is Not Enough. So greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and thank you very much for stopping by, because here we are continuing on with our live stream discussion format of the James Bond films. I think we're all trying to make as much progress and just going through each film at a time. And so today we are discussing a film which was decided upon by the group at the last live stream, because we always decide what film to discuss at the end in terms of a group consensus vote. So today, let us talk about the consensus vote that was decided upon, which is the Pierce Brosnan James Bond film, The World Is Not Enough. So I hope that you are interested in this film. If you like it, if you don't like it, however you feel about this film, that's okay. We welcome all opinions and all viewpoints, and I certainly do, because your viewpoint, whether it be positive or negative or anything in between, will always help me to try to look at this film in a different way. So this is not a debate, this is a discussion, and so I hope that we can all have fun talking about this very, shall I use the word again, interesting film, The World Is Not Enough. So just to get a few preliminary points established, this is a discussion, so we are going to talk about spoilers of this film. I certainly will. And so the topic or the discussion will be assuming that you have seen the film. If you haven't seen the film, then I strongly suggest that you turn off this live stream. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for stopping by. I really am appreciative of it, but perhaps I don't want to spoil anything for you about this very, very intricate film. Uh, so please, I strongly recommend that you turn this off, and then you can watch the film, and then you can come back at any time. Even if you can't make the live stream as it is ongoing live, this will be uploaded as a video after the fact onto the channel. So um, please feel free to stop by at any time once you've seen the film. Another thing too is that this is going to be a film fan discussion, so I don't claim to know every single detail about this film. I wish I did, but I didn't. There are so many more knowledgeable people out there, including participants in this live stream, who have deep knowledge of these films and the others and the production details and the like, and they can perhaps provide more further information or further resource material info and the like. So, but I will certainly do my best to address all the points that are raised. Speaking of which, you can use the live chat. The live chat function is, of course, part of this YouTube live stream thing, so please feel free to do that. I, of course, will be encouraging you and relying upon you, my dear friends, to make sure that your discussions are always with a sense of mutual respect towards everyone. We don't have to agree, that's fine, but I'm always very appreciative of you, my dear friends, for keeping the discussions always very friendly and welcoming, and showing respect towards everyone. So thank you very much for that, and I know that I can rely upon all of you throughout this live stream for that. Thank you very much. And I will do my best also to address all of the points and everyone in the chat. Please forgive me for two things in advance. First thing is I might forget to name you in the live stream. If that's the case, I very much apologize. It's not my intention. It's just I'm trying to scroll down and make sure that I keep up, but oftentimes I make mistakes. So please forgive me on that front. Also, I should say that I will probably be talking for the most part about this film, The World Is Not Enough. I do have some comments to make about other James Bond films, in fact, like Dr. No or On Her Majesty's Secret Service. There's a huge connection with that in this film. But for the most part, I will be addressing those comments or questions in the live chat that are focusing on this film. So if you have any other questions about other films or other series or something like that, then I will just very politely, or not polite, but I'll try to be polite, and I will be respectful in just skipping over those comments. And please, if I've skipped over your comment over the course of today's discussion, please feel free to upload it again in the in a video comment elsewhere, and I will be sure to try to get to it as soon as possible. And last thing is, I have I have to finish at 9:30 because I have another matter that I have to take care of. So maybe around when we hit the 9-ish mark or 9:15 mark, I'll start to wind down and we can begin to discuss what our plans will be for the next live stream. Because after all, at the end of this live stream, please stick around if you are interested, because whoever is still here, we will all be, as a group, decide what film to discuss next in the James Bond series. So if you are interested in that, please stick around. Probably the discussions will begin around 9-ish or so. Okay, so, and please excuse me because I have a bit of a stuffed up nose, so maybe it's a little bit of the sniffles, but nothing to worry about. It's just early morning sniffles, that sort of thing. Okay, so with that, let's begin the conversation in earnest. So before I go, let just go to the chat to see who's here, and we will begin. Carl Hayes is here. Hello. Um, let's see. So I'm just skipping over a few things here. Seth says, such a great opening chase, but how about that underwater tie adjust? Yes, I'll get to that. I'll get to that chase. Yeah. Special K is here. Hello. GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies are the only Brosnan Bond films I like. Oh, those are two good films, by the way. Let's see. Cooper Glover, hello, my dear friend. Denise Richards is very attractive, but in terms of this film, that's about it. Oh, interesting. I'll try to make the case for Dr. Jones later on in this. Let's see. Give it a call. It's yeah. Damful says, I've never minded Richards in the film. It's the character that feels shoehorned in. Let's see. Yeah, Damful says, I really wish the original end credits song, Only Myself to Blame, yes, had been kept in. I agree. I think that's a great song. When I got the CD soundtrack of The World Is Not Enough when it was originally released on CD, whatever it is, in the 90s, right, 99 or whatever, when I got that CD with the really, really cheap-looking paper thin insert, if you recall, I don't know, I was so disappointed with that insert because the Tomorrow Never Dies soundtrack had this nice fold out thing. It wasn't deluxe edition, but it was nice. And then World Is Not Enough. Oh, I can't wait to listen to the soundtrack. And I get it, and it's a piece of paper or something. But anyway, the World Is Not Enough. Yes, it's great. Yes, Only Myself to Blame. I love that song. Yeah, I was listening to that over and over again. I think what that was on the soundtrack, right? If am I remembering that correctly? Yeah. But anyway, let's see. Okay. All right. Seth Walt says, I love all Moneypenny scenes. This Bond has a great few. I have such a movie crush on her this one. And yeah. Yeah, Erwin says, yeah, they definitely tried to shoehorn, yes, Lara Croft into this. Yes, the Tomb Raider look of Denise Richards, Christmas Jones. Yes, I'll get to, and blah blah says, I feel it wasted the idea of Stockholm syndrome, felt thrown in at the end for a cheap shock twist. And then let's see, and then Cooper Clever. So I'm skipping over, but let me now just focus the comments, or not comments. Let me focus my discussion points here first on the general impression of this film and how I came to this film. So, World Is Not Enough, the third Pierce Brosnan James Bond film, and I was, of course, very excited when I heard the news. And I was 99, so I was still in university. I was in undergrad at the time, and so it was great, and I was very thrilled too because I liked the film Tomorrow Never Dies quite a bit, and I like the fact that now we're getting another film, The World Is Not Enough, of course. And so I'd go to the theater, and as I indicated, I'd buy the soundtrack and listen to it, and just get really excited. And then, of course, I watched the film and in the theater at the time, and it was, I must admit, it left me with a lot of look, I felt I felt very much stretched out, because I felt like it was going in so many different places at once that to be perfectly honest, when I finished watching it, I didn't quite know how to make of it, and I didn't quite know how to feel about the world is not enough. And I think that is probably due to the fact that I recognize that there are so many different types of things going on here that I think are very characteristic, in my view, stepping back on the Brosnan era as a whole. It's like we have a little bit of, I don't know, it has a little bit of Moonraker and a little bit of On Her Majesty's, and it has a little bit of Doctor No, and it has a little bit of even Diamonds Are Forever, and it has a little bit of For Your Eyes Only and The Living Daylights, but it also has a little bit of Golden Gun. So it feels like a big mishmash. And I always thought, or when I first saw it, I thought at the time that when I initially saw it, I thought that that was a little bit of a weakness of the film, because I thought, oh, a film in the Bond series should know what it is and just stick with it. But over time, I began to, I think, really upon rewatch and then the getting the DVD here, which came a little bit later, and just watching it over and over again, I came to feel much more comfortable with it, and I can go along with the faults of the film, or not the faults, but some of the bits of the film that are a little bit, maybe, shall we say, ropey. But I can go along with that because it also adds to the fun of the conversation. So that's one thing. Another thing is I do like the Pierce Brosnan Bond performance here. Although Bond here is there's something very interesting going on in terms of well, I mean there's a lot of the Bond running, and there's a lot of the chin, which is great. This is probably, in my view, maybe this could be the greatest chin acting of the Bond series I've ever seen. And I'm saying this very earnestly. This probably is, there's a scene involving a chair and a sort of a torture device that has, quite simply, perhaps the best chin acting in any Bond film that I've ever seen. And so that's an example of how I think Pierce Brosnan's performance here is really interesting. It does reflect, though, the fact that this is so many things at once, and I think Bond here is also that it is so many things at once, and so I'll try to discuss or explain why I feel that way about his performance. There's ways in which he feels about the character Electra, which I don't quite know exactly how I feel about, and there's ways in which he does this or does this. So, but that's part of the charm and fun of it. But it is also, in my view, a very it's a collection of myriad things that I'll try to explain why. And I'd like to think that it works, but I do acknowledge that there might be uh, some um, some maybe ropey elements with the overall approach or philosophy to it. But that's, again, stepping back. Another example of how I feel about this film overall now, which is I can see maybe where it's a bit shaky, including its plot, because I don't, even now, I saw it recently for purposes of this live stream. Even I was really trying to keep up with what's going on, what the plot steps are, and I admit I'm very confused about a lot of things. So I don't, I understand that we have to let go, or I have to let go a lot of that in order to have a good time. And when I do that, I have a really great time. And there are some great lines of dialogue. There are some wonderful set pieces. There's a great arc in terms of the Zukovsky character and what happens to him here versus what happened to him in Goldeneye earlier, a couple films earlier. And there's a great arc, although I realize that for many years I thought something about that particular arc, and then I only realized later that my initial impression was mistaken, and I'll get to that if we have time as well. But be that as it may, I think it's a great conclusion of that relationship between Bond and the Robbie Coltrane character, and Denise Richards. I know Denise Richards' Christmas Jones has come up a little bit in the conversation already. I think I get the conversation. I'll try to make the case for Christmas Jones, and and you know. Like I like well, yeah, I like how she's like, don't, I don't say any jokes, I've heard them also. She's already cutting off the possibility of saying any further Christmas related jokes to her. But then at the very end, she says, "Oh, is that another Christmas joke? So why don't you unwrap your present?" She's the one who says Christmas jokes back to him. So anyway, but maybe by that time they're on friendlier terms, and of course, there's a little bit of heat mapping going on in terms of what happens to the body temperature during the good what is it a good cuddle, I suppose. But in any event, the Christmas Jones character is one that I will try to address as well. I get all the comments, and I know throughout the history of this film, that's been one of the topics of discussion. Another topic of discussion is, of course, the Electra King character. I think she is uh, I think the character is the key to this film, and perhaps it is maybe in many ways one of the most significant points of this film in the context of how this film fits in the overall scheme of Brosnan's Bond era, and in fact the Bond era as a whole, because her character and what happens to her character and the turn that happens is, I think, it's very unique in a lot of ways in the Bond series, and I'll try to explain why I think that way. And please let me know if you think you disagree, and I'd love to have a discussion with you. And of course, no, sorry, not Robbie Coltrane, Robert Carlyle, and Renard, and the whole thing about, um, uh, you know, um, his whole setup and the bullet in the head, and his little the little head shake that he does when he talks, which I think is a little interesting character trait or quirk, which I think David Arnold in one of the commentary tracks remarks how, very key scene, Pierce Brosnan seems to be replicating that particular tick, character, physical tick when there's a certain scene happening involving a rod. And so that's an interesting character as well. I have certain things to say about that character as well, and others, and M as well. But with that, let us discuss this film in earnest. But before we go, let us return, or I will return to the live chat, and we will continue on. So let's see. Um, Cooper Clever says the scene in the harbor or dock or whatever with boats in it and with the chainsaw helicopter is boring. Denise Richards and Robbie Coltrane seem to be going through the motions. Oh, that's interesting. So that's the one with that's at the Caviar Factory, I think, and that's because Zukowski is has many interests, including his own line of caviar, right? So I think yeah, that was an interesting sequence. I think that's one of the only sequences where we see the car, the BMW, in action in this film, right, with the rockets and things. So that's interesting. There's also an interesting thing about how Bond, there's the rope, and Bond has to do the James Bond thing, like you always have to have that moment, da 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 da, that moment, and he's like hanging, and he's hanging on the thing and the rope, and he glides down, and I thought that was so cool. But I think about it, like his shoulder hurts, and so sometimes his shoulder doesn't hurt, but sometimes it does. So he doesn't do. I looked, and I don't think he does any of that. Oh, my shoulder thing when he's hanging, but when he lands on the ground, he's like, my shoulder. So it's that's interesting. I thought, like, I don't know, maybe it depends on the placement of how it was injured or dislocated or whatever, but maybe he was holding it in such a way, and his arm was in such a way that it didn't hurt him when he was flying down the rope there. But oh well, but I like that scene because it shows a number of things. It shows the deep rooted complexity of the Zukowski character. That Zukowski character is very he's not necessarily like a good guy or bad guy type of dynamic. It's not like that. He's working both sides because we understand that the payoff or the casino game was in fact a payoff to Zukowski in order to be able to get his nephew, who's in the Russian Navy, to have his nuclear submarine stop off in Istanbul, completely, in secret, and then, under the ruse of dropping off cargo. Whereas we understand that this is all a trick to be played by Electra and Renard on Zukowski and his nephew to essentially steal this nuclear submarine in order to cause a nuclear meltdown in Istanbul, which is probably meant to uh, stop the flow of the Russian-rooted oil pipelines that rely upon the trade point of Istanbul. And if Istanbul is destroyed in this nuclear cataclysm, then the whole world will need to rely upon the oil pipeline route that is provided by Electra King and King um, King Oil. So, okay. So, but that's all discovered, or the roots of that plot are discovered in the caviar factory. So, that's really great. And I've never been. It's a caviar factory? I think I've never been to a caviar factory. So, and I don't. I admit I'm not an expert in the making of caviar, the preparation or processing of what becomes the product of caviar. So I don't know what it is involved in this, but I suppose I could believe that this could be a caviar factory. I don't know. Are there any people out there who have been to or who maybe are involved in caviar factories? If so, please let me know if this is realistic or not. Maybe if that's the case, maybe it's like, I don't know, like what they did with the Fort Knox and in Goldfinger. You know, the inside of Fort Knox. Maybe that's not what it really looks like, but in terms of imagination and cinema, that's the portrayal that we see of Fort Knox and Goldfinger. Maybe that's a similar thing that's going on here. Maybe we don't quite know what's going on in a caviar factory, but again, for purposes of the film and The World Is Not Enough, we have this. And in fact, there's the great moment where Zukovsky. Well, actually, there are two great moments. There are a lot of moments in that film, that moment, that sequence that I think are great. First is we get a bit of the Brosnan running, you know, with the shaking of the arms. I love that. I love that. We got a lot of it in Goldeneye, but we don't get a lot of it in this film, I think. Except when we get here, I mean, in the earlier sequence in the underground chamber with the disarming of the all the nuclear bombs and things, and when the things are exploding, he runs on the chain, to avoid the fireball explosion. But there wasn't any bit of running like that, if I recall, in that sequence. But now in the caviar factory sequence, we get this, so that's great. That's one thing. And then the scene where Zukovsky falls into the pit, which I assume is like, I don't know, processed or pre-processed or mid-processed caviar, I think, or I hope it's caviar. I hope it's not anything else. But in any event, it's this black goo, and it looks like oil, and so maybe it is oil. I'm not sure, but I think it probably has to do with caviar. If it is caviar or caviar related substance goo, like caviar goo, then it's black in color, and so he's covered in it, and it's like, "Oh, help me, okay, I'll tell you everything. Just get me, So that's great. That's great, and it reminds me also of the of the opening titles with all the images of the people in black goo and the oil, and so whenever I see the opening title sequence, I think, is that oil or is that caviar goo? And if it is caviar goo, then it probably would have been really interesting to see a silhouette of Robbie Coltrane somewhere in the opening titles. Who knows? Maybe Kleiman and company put a little bit of an Easter egg in there with Robbie Coltrane's silhouette. I haven't had a chance to look carefully with a magnifying glass, but I think that's a pretty interesting sequence for those and other reasons. But I get how it might seem a little bit maybe repetitive or something in the context of the rest of the film. But that's a very good point, Kubrick lover. Thank you. Great point as always. Thank you so much, my dear friend. Um, okay, so special cases. Glad to be here with you, Daisuke. Yeah, imagine Casino Royale with Brosnan. Oh my goodness, yeah. Anyway, let's see. Let's see. Have you gotten the complete La La Land to The World Is Not Enough score release? No, I haven't. No, I only had. I don't have it anymore. I only had the initial DVD release, and or not DVD. What am I saying? CD release, and it was that insert, which was just like a folded piece of paper or something. And I was quite disappointed with that. But I love I really shouldn't, I suppose, listen to the soundtracks before I watched the film, but I did that when I was when I was, especially when I was in that age at the time when I was a university student, before when I could get my hands on, I had a little bit of pocket money, and I could purchase the CD, and so I could listen to it before the film was released. I made one fatal error though with that. I don't want to go into too many details, but as some of you may know, the film uh, um, Star Wars Episode One: The Phantom Menace. That's what I did. I went to the store before the film was released. I was very excited about the film Star Wars Episode One: The Phantom Menace, and I got there's the soundtrack. I'm gonna listen to the soundtrack. I look at I'm gonna listen to this, and let's get it. And I look at the back, and there's a title. It says, um, the noble end. I'm like, come on, please, if you're gonna name the song on the soundtrack, please don't just name it something else. Say something like, I don't know, like, oh, this guy's going to fight, or oh, gosh. But anyway, or like use words that are less obvious. But anyway, but yeah. So, but back to the world is not enough. Um, let's see. I think this might be a good place for me to try to talk about what the plot is, or what I perceive the plot to be. And if I make any mistakes along the way, please correct me. But let's see. So the plot of the world is not enough. So let's try to go through this step by step. So at the start, we have the Bilbao sequence, and Bond is going to meet a Swiss banker, and for some kind of pickup of money, a large sum of money. And we understand it's related somehow to something about someone named Robert King, and a payment of some kind, or a return of money that was maybe somehow initially made by King in order to purchase or procure a report of some kind, but then due to some reason that we will discover later, the money is being returned, and this banker was responsible, or we understand, or he says he was able to retrieve the money, whatever that means. But in any event, this is the pickup from that banker. I think he's a banker anyway, or someone, to Bond, and Bond is going to pick this up on behalf of M or King, or the government. So at this pickup, we start with a number of great details. So already we get the gun barrel and the opening into Pierce Brosnan himself. And what I love about Pierce Brosnan's Bond is when he's in public walking, he's always nervous, right? He's always like looking around, is like, am I okay? I'm gonna cross the street here. Am I okay? Oh, is a car gonna come? And so he's always looking around, and he's on edge. And so I like that sort of on edge Bond Brosnan. It's true, especially at the end of the sequence when he's escaped through the window, and he's gotten the money, and he's walking around. He's got this huge thing of it's very conspicuous, large, I don't know, uh, this large silver case, and he's just looking around. Am I okay? Am I okay? And it then fades back into London, of course. But in any event, this is the sequence where it's the pickup, but then there's this thing about how it turns a bit sinister, and Bond needs the information about who killed the MI6 agent who was going to supply, or no, what was it? Someone killed the MI6 agent and took the report from that agent, or something like that. But in any event, there's something about the death of an agent, and Bond wants to know that information. And he asks the question, and then says, "I don't know." And then suddenly it turns very sinister. I'm not sure why. And then there's suddenly Bond says, "You're probably not going to get out if you're alive." So he suddenly becomes very, very aggressive. It turns very aggressive very quickly, and I don't quite know why that is. I don't see why Bond couldn't have tried to finesse his way through that conversation to try to get more information. Maybe they could have had drinks or something. I don't know. But he just suddenly he's like, "Oh, you're not going to. I'm going to now." Say, "Oh, you're not going to leave this office alive," or something like that, and he's taking off his glasses. Were those glasses? Those weren't the ones that he could. Those weren't the X-ray vision glasses, right? If so, I mean, I could imagine, or I can't even imagine having X-ray vision glasses out in public. You just be like information overload. But in any event, the glasses here are also equipped with the mechanism to blow up the gun, I suppose. And so that's the. Although you have to thank goodness that they decided to check him arm, because I'd hate to think what would happen if he pushed the button on the glasses before he took the gun out of his holster. But in any event, the gun was on the table. It created enough of a distraction in order to get everyone done. And then the bankers, I was like, okay, I'll tell you and back. What a great throwback, right? This is very much you only live twice stuff, right? Mr. Henderson, great stuff. But anyway, and then we understand that there's a character who is identified in the credits, the closing credits, as Cigar Girl, but she is very formidable in terms of what she is what she is there to do, and we find out later that Bond is alive, and maybe that he was meant to stay alive in order to get the money back, and we'll get to that later. But in any event, he is able to survive, and he's able to go out of the window there, tied up to that guy, which is very much, and the shot looks very GoldenEye-esque, and going down there, and he's like, oh, I'm just jumping down with this huge sum of thing out of an office that's probably a banker's office with a large case, and like, oh, hello, and people are walking away, not caring. If I saw someone running, I think, what's going on? Maybe I want to call the police. But in any event, Bond is able to escape, and we go back to London. But now we get the introduction of the King character, Robert King, and M. They are on such good terms that, what is it? They sit on the edge of the desk. If you're really good friends with someone, you're going to sit on the edge of your desk rather than sit behind the desk. So it's, I think, right. So M is on edge, sitting on edge of desk territory with King, and we understand that they read law at Oxford together, so they have a background. I'm not sure if that means that. I'm not sure what the basis of any emotional connection that M has to King is. I'm not sure about that. It could be implied, maybe, that there might have been something quite intimate between the two of them. Who knows? But in any event, that's mere speculation, of course. But in any event, M is very close to King, and the payment is to him, and then, not the payment, but the return of the money is his money, and so they handled the inspection of the money in a separate room, very conveniently, because it leaves time for M and Bond to discuss a little bit about what this money was for. It was, what is it, 3,000,030, and we'll get to that in a moment as well, because he very conveniently kept the receipt. And also, there's a little bit of talk about the report, what it was for. Somehow, was it something to do with the Russian Atomic Agency, something, and attacks or info or intel on possible terrorist attack plans on Robert King's oil pipeline. Okay, wow, a lot of stuff going on, but that's not all, because then we get the whole thing with the explosion and the money and the pin. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know how explosives work in this context. And so, is it possible to charge money with a pin like this? If so, that's a very interesting, like, tech. Is there like a radio signal that's connected to, would it be? How would you charge the money in that? I'm not sure, but in any event, the explosive material that is associated with this cash is ignited, or it's charged when in close proximity, I think, with Robert King's pin, the pin here. So, okay, so I didn't quite get that when that happened, but okay, I can go along with my suspension of disbelief. But in any event, Bond was onto it, because he's drinking, he's like this, and it's like, hmm, that Alka-Seltzer type of sound, which is always very, you should be careful if you hear that sound in a movie. And in any event, he's like this, and then he's like, oh, Eureka, I know exactly what's going to happen. That I must get to the money, and explosion. Yet another explosion, by the way, at the MI6 headquarters. So there's this, and of course later we'll see an explosion within the security confines, if you will. They've breached the security wall and have been able to plant a bomb within MI6, again, also in Skyfall. So not a throwback, but throw forward perhaps to what we will see later in Skyfall. But then, of course, this leads to the great chase. We have a boat that suddenly flies out because Bond recognizes the assassin who's standing in this bright, kind of, well, not bright, but it's a very conspicuous colored jumpsuit in the middle of the Thames River, all on her own, on a boat with a gun pointed at MI6 headquarters. Now, you'd think that maybe there might be some guards or other security personnel who would have seen this, and maybe they could have done, but no, no. In any event, there's only Bond, and the only Bond, the only thing that MI6 could do is Bond to essentially, um, essentially take the boat of Q, which we understand later is Q's private property, I suppose. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a gift from Her Majesty's government for all of his long-standing service to the country. But in any event, he takes the boat and we're off and running in a very spectacular boat chase, which is also very reminiscent. It has Live and Let Die vibes to it, and it has a great score. The David Arnold score is coming in here with the dun dun dun, and then we have it also has Moonraker vibes because there's a moment where the boat goes into it goes into the goes takes a different route and has to cut through and goes on land, and so that's Live and Let Die-ish. That's very Moonrakers. That's also very Christopher Nolan Batman. It reminds me a lot of the Batmobile. Or was there a boat? Was there a boat in the Nolan Batman universe? I can't seem to recall. I know that there was a boat, I think, in Batman 66, but uh, uh, I mean, incidentally, Batman 66, there's another great connection with the world of James Bond, that film, and Osato, who was in You Only Live Twice, and he's right, and the UN Council, I think, in Batman 66. But in any event, this boat that Pierce Brosnan's Bond is driving looks like the Batmobile. It even has the Batmobile type of engines in the back, I think, and it can go down. And as Erwin was mentioning, you've got the great tie adjusting sequence. I suppose maybe it could be explained away by saying maybe since he's under the water and maybe his tie is too tight, maybe he has to loosen his tie a little bit in order to make his throat a little bit freer from pressure. I don't know, but anyway, of course, maybe he just wants to look good. And if that's the case, that reminds me also of the bit with the cuff link, or not cuff link, but the cuff, the shirt cuff adjustment that Daniel Craig's Bond does after he jumps off of the broken off train, and he jumps onto the carriage, and the train is like broken and this thing's happening, but all it can stand there and just straightens his shirt cuffs and moves on to try to chase after what's his name, Patrice, I think. But in any event, so that was Skyfall. Um, but then we have the chase going on, and then the great moment where the two boats are about to meet each other, and then what was it? The Millennium Dome, I think, was there, and then there's a blimp. Or not a blimp, there is a hot air balloon, which is very conveniently placed there, I think, because then it allows for the assassin to run off the boat before the rockets blow up the boat, and then she goes on the hot air balloon. And then it's after she's on the hot air balloon, it's at this point, then we get all the helicopters. Not before, but now we get all the helicopters, and Pierce Brosnan's Bond is hanging there. So we've got hanging Bond action, which is very reminiscent of A View to a Kill, right? And then we've got the hot air balloon, which is very much like Octopussy, right? And then we've got a great fall from a height onto the thing, and so that fall reminds me a lot of how the pre-titles entered into the opening title sequence in the film Moonraker, right, with Jaws, and he's falling into the circus tent, and you see the silhouette of his body, like, and then the drum. Da, 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 tsh. I always thought that Pierce Brosnan's fall, or his Bond fall here, was very much like that. He was like Jaws, and so that maybe in a subtle way, this is saying Pierce Bond and Jaws are one and the same person. They are mirror images of each other. Ha! But in any event, that could be too much of a stretch. But before that, of course, we have the whole thing. Now, This is one thing, when I saw this film in the theater at the time, I remember someone saying out, like, "What? Why don't you, like, you've got the assassin is there, and she's just, shooting Bond. Bond is just hanging there on the rope, and the assassin, they've been just trying to kill each other for the past 5 minutes or so, maybe more, but." She's got I think she could shoot him, but and then when all the helicopters go, does she shoot him? No, her next choice is to go to the gas tank next. That the hot air balloon is equipped with, and instead of wanting to shoot Bond, she goes does that with her gun. No, no, I can protect you, not from him. And instead of shooting Bond, she shoots the gas tank, which blows up the thing. And the assumption being, of course, that whoever she's working for is so dangerous that she is willing to essentially blow up her own hot air balloon rather than kill Bond and then submit herself to the authorities. So, okay, okay, and then we discover later that probably she's working for, is it Renard or Electra or the two of them? I don't know, but okay, okay. So there's a lot of that fear in the characters when we saw a film like Doctor No. So there are these Doctor No vibes as well. And then last but not least, we have the introduction, of course, of the injury, the infamous shoulder injury, and one of many great examples of the chin, Pierce Brosnan's chin, trying to show us or to suggest to us that Bond is in pain. And it's perfect too, I think, because that pain moment, that Pierce Brosnan chin acting moment, is so representative. And again, I'm being very earnest here, very sincere. It is so representative, I think, of the Pierce Brosnan era in a great way, and that leads into the garbage song, da, 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 and then the whole thing with the quick image of Brosnan, and then going into a silhouette image of Bond, and the whole world of the oil. And I thought the whole bit with the oil pumps, all the oil pumps. I thought that was a bit much, but in any event, it was a very effective title sequence. And as someone mentioned, I think Cooper Clever and others, I think that song is great. I think that song is great. But in any event, that's just the pre-titles alone. My goodness, I'm breathless just talking about that. But already we get some of the mystery, some of the detail, some of the hall throwbacks and throw forwards to different Bond films from past and future. And we see great examples of Pierce Brosnan's Bond. There's some serious stuff to him, but then there's like some really major Bond WTF moments. Like what's going on here? Why is this happening the way it's happening? But if we let go, or if I let go and go on for the ride, then I have a great time. So, but I let me just stop here because I need a drink. So I'll just take a sip of my tea, and then in the meantime, I will go to the live chat, and we will continue on. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. Um, Special cases. The opening is the best scene. Yeah. So I was talking about the opening scene. There's a lot going on here, and let's see. Um, Yeah, Damful says it's very true. There are many elements at play in the film. It's trying to deviate from the formula, but continually snaps back to it. That's both a strength and weakness, but it has so many things. Yes, to savor over the years. Um, yes, Kevin O'Connell says the best chin acting scene, hidden assets. Um, yeah. Oh, I forgot. That reminds me. This is the opening, or the pre-titles. Excuse me. Did I say opening? I meant to say pre-titles. The pre-title sequence also has a way in which we see how Pierce Brosnan's Bond in this film, The World Is Not Enough, is very much like he has, for whatever reason, this Bond in this film is very much like he gets very nervous or physically like agitated whenever there's some kind of sexual innuendo going on. You know what I mean? So here we have what we understand is later the assassin she's talking about, right? That line, would you like to check my figures? And he's like, oh, I'm sure they're perfectly rounded, or something like that, right? And so um, when he gives this line, he's like, oh, I'm sure they're perfectly. There's a moment where he's really agitated. Now, I'm not sure if he's really in need of some kind of, I don't know, cuddle in bed or something. But in any event, this is very indicative of a lot of how he handles some of the sexual innuendo lines in other parts of the film. And there's a lot of type of this momentary agitation, and there's like that kind of thing before he delivers the line, and that has a. I mean, it's a little bit. I must have when I first saw it, I thought it was a little bit weird, but it. I understand that that's part of the process, if you will, or the performance of or this particular Bond in this particular film, and it adds, I think, that extra level of say comic timing. So enjoyed on that front, but there's something very very odd about James Bond and how he is handling the aspect of sexual innuendo, and perhaps it's not quite directly related to sexual innuendo, but this brings me to the point about how Bond was able to fall so hard for Electra King. Why? What was the reason why he essentially? I think he fell in love with Electra. I think, given his reaction after she was shot by him. I never miss, right? He takes a moment. There's a huge nuclear meltdown that is possibly about to destroy Istanbul, but no, he takes a moment, quite a long moment, in fact, to go and check on now the dead body of Electra in bed there in a moment which suggests to me that maybe there is something where he fell in love with her. Bond fell in love with her. And if that's the case, how? What was the reason? What was it about Electra that made him fall in love with her? I still don't get the only thing that I could see is maybe he felt an emotional attachment somehow when he was reviewing the footage on TV. And there's a moment, kind of creepy actually, when he's looking at the video image of Electra, looking back on what happened to her and the case of her kidnapping, and I think he touches her image on the screen with her finger or something. But it's if that's but anyway, it's that goes into a very, I think, murky territory as to how Electra, what it is about Electra that makes her be able to, in essence, in some degree anyway, control people like Bond and indeed control people like Renard. I think it can be said that maybe Electra's relationships, let's say with Renard, it could be one of mutual love and respect, but it also could be one where she is simply manipulating Renard and she's only pretending to love him. We're not sure, to be perfectly honest. I'm not sure what it could be for Electra at the end, but maybe that is some kind of indication of her, what she described as being having this effect on men. She always had this effect on men to get whatever it was that she wanted, and maybe it's that thing that is related to how Bond fell for her. This is to say, maybe for me, it's probably not as well established as it could have been, but in any event, there is that sort of murky territory as to why Bond falls for Electra the way he does, and that's why he reacts the way he does. He does take some time to respond, even though he's very short on time, as I say, because nuclear Armageddon is upon him. But no, let me just take a moment to say farewell to someone who essentially was about to kill me. But in any event, let me take him. And he does take his time. There's a moment too when Renard ignites, or he starts the timer, the 5 second timer on the bomb in the underground there, and Brosnan looks, or Bond looks at the timer. It's 5, 4, and like he doesn't run immediately. He's just He's just looking. And then suddenly, when there's only 2 seconds left or something, he decides to run on the chain, and the chain goes. And then the magic of cinema, 2 seconds becomes, I think, 5 seconds. But in any event, that's enough time to escape the fireball. There's a lot of interesting manipulations of time. There's another very famous one, or infamous one, about the rod, the plutonium rod that Renard is basically shoving into the reactor there. I don't quite know how nuclear reactors work, but is it that easy to put plutonium into a reactor? But in any event, do you do that? But in any event, it's probably, again, the Goldfinger Fort Knox situation there. You don't quite know what it is in reality, but who cares? This is cinema, and it's supposed to be, and it looks beautiful, by the way, the upturned submarine set, etc. But there's a moment where it's like he's putting the rod in, and it cuts to Bond, and he's still putting the rod. It's only about this long, and he's putting the rod in, and he cuts to Bond, and he's still putting the rod in. He cuts on, and he's putting it back in, but he's back to where he was before. And he's putting the rod in again, and then sudden, finally, he's able to. He's just, no, I'm just gonna keep pushing it, pushing. This your whole life, your whole mission in life right now is to get this rod into the reactor. You think you do it really quickly, but no, he's doing it very, very slowly. And so much so that he cuts back. So maybe there's a moment where he put it in and then he just said, no, maybe I'll just maybe retrieve it again and then now readjust and put it. So maybe that was what's going on. But in any event, there's a lot of manipulation of time here. But that's part of the fun. That's part of the magic. As I say, that's an example of my approach to this film. If I think about those too much and I think, what's going on here? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But if I let go and have fun with it, it's a lot of fun, and I can laugh and have a good time with it. And my goodness, that if we need anything in the times that we're living, especially now, if I need anything in the times that I'm living in right now, it's a good laugh and a good time. And if I can find those in moments like that in a film like The World Is Not Enough, then I am very, very happy indeed. But in any event, so that is the well, I didn't even what was I talking about before? Anyway, the chin acting, yes, but you were saying the chin acting. I think the chin acting scene that is probably the best chin acting scene is the torture chair sequence at the end. But I'll get to that momentarily. It's great. Yeah, the Kubrick says the chair scene just seems perhaps that Boston is phoning the scene. Oh my goodness, really? I think the chair scene I said I would get to it later, but I have to get to it now. The chair scene it's probably one of the best moments, in my view, in any Brosnan era Bond film. That is like Goldfinger's laser beam sequence, except there is an extra added level of sexual based threat and danger. Because you know that Elektra and Bond have this relationship as well. It's both a romantic one and also an antagonistic one. And the point where she is toying with him and sitting on him essentially to essentially basically just yeah, toy with him and both in a sexual way and also in this really uh, it's a very sadistic way to torture Bond with the whole thing with the rod against his neck and then the turning of the wheel, of course. But the moment that is to me, oh, I'm sorry, and it's the this is the type of moment where we see occasionally Bond in a position where he's unable to get out. And we saw this, I think, very famously in as I was indicating earlier, the Goldfinger laser beam sequence where Bond is on there. But the difference between, I think that's a very classic sequence, of course it is. And it's very iconic, very, very iconic. Maybe in the context of Bond film history, it's probably more iconic, historically iconic than, say, the torture chair sequence in The World Is Not Enough. But I would suggest that maybe the torture chair sequence has that extra level of complexity because Goldfinger and Bond, they didn't have that. They weren't on the same type of romantic or potentially romantic and emotional terms that Bond and Electra King were at the time of this moment. So that adds an extra level of murky, sinister nature to that particular moment. I think it makes it very disturbing indeed, and please disagree with me if you do. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But for me, the best James Bond chin acting in any Bond film is in this part where it's the line. I can't even mimic it. It's so perfect. I can't do it. But one last screw, and I'm sorry I couldn't do it justice, but it was. It is amazing. There's so much things happening at once. It's like your whole life is flashing before your very eyes at the moment of death. And I think Bond realizes that this is probably his moment of death. and that he lets out one last one-liner, which is very much characteristic of James Bond, a sexual innuendo type of one-liner, and I think even Bond is impressed with it, because there's a moment where he's like, like between the words "last" and "screw," there's a moment where he gives a little wink or twinkle in the eye, or a little curl of the lip to indicate a smile, as though he's very proud of his own joke. It's like, oh, sometimes you do that. Sometimes I don't know if but sometimes I do that. Maybe I think, oh, I think, well, that was very funny. What so maybe it was that kind of moment. One last screw, and the chin is just like, it's just going on full thrusters here at this moment. It's amazing, and the way it's able to extend outward like that and just move, it's almost like it has its own life at that moment. Maybe the chin at this moment is saying, Bond is about to die, but I want to live. I want to escape this body, and I want to get out. So maybe the chin is probably saying to itself, I want to remove myself from the face and run away, because I don't want to die. But in any event, this is there's so much happening in this moment, and I'm being very, very sincere when it's very indicative of or very emblematic of the Bond era, in Pierce Brosnan's Bond era. It's all here, and it's magic, absolutely magic. But again, I get it if people don't like the scene, or think it's probably a bit repetitive or redundant, or maybe been there, done that, because again, this is something of a trait in a lot of Bond films, this torture sequence. I mean, we'll see a very effective one later, of course, in Casino Royale. But uh, and the stakes perhaps might not necessarily seem as physically demanding, say in that Daniel Craig film, but still, this is very physical demanding, in terms of sweat and the chin, and where we saw, maybe in Daniel Craig's hands, he would have been like, to the right, to the right, to the uh, or maybe, right, if we saw Pierce Brosnan in that Casino Royale torture scene, maybe it would have been more like his chin. He wouldn't have said to the right. He would have been like, the chin would have been like, to the right, to the, that would have been, but that would still would have been iconic, and those are little quirks or traits that are great. And even when Roger Moore was James Bond, there's a whole thing about he can't raise his eyebrow too much, but those eyebrow raises, or that thing with he uses his eyes, and so there's little those physical or quirks of physicality that come out with each performance and each performer in the Bond role. I think and Pierce Brosnan is no exception. It's great, absolutely great. I love it. I can't do it justice, but in terms of an impersonation, but I think it's great. Mainly movies is here. Hello, it's my dear friend, Kubrick Lover says the chair scene is just a lazy plot device. Oh, no, maybe okay. That's true, but there is, as I say, there's a lot of information there, and also it's not the chair scene, but it's up to the chair scene, right? We get the whole link with we get one of the links with the title of the film, and we also get by virtue of that link to the title of the film, we get the I would contest to be the conclusion of the nuanced character arc in this film, The World Is Not Enough, which seems to suggest that there is some kind of continuity connection, or thematic connection at least, between this film, The World Is Not Enough, and an earlier Bond film called On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Now, to explain this chair sequence, I have to talk about the On Her Majesty's Secret Service connections. So, On Her Majesty's Secret, I can't even say it. On Her Majesty's Secret Service was from the late '60s. It was George Lazenby, and it was a story that involved, among other things, the relationship between Bond and Tracy, the Diana Rigg character in that film. Here, it involved skiing and that sort of thing. Here in The World Is Not Enough, there's a ski sequence, which is very similar in a lot of ways to how the ski sequence was shot in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That's one. Another is the way that Sophie Marceau's Electra is dressed has a very Diana Rigg Tracy vibe to it. I think David Arnold in one of the commentaries makes that observation very, and I agree with him. She looks very Tracy-esque. And also, if we were to understand that Bond falls in love with Elektra, then there's also that connection emotionally anyway, in terms of a parallel relationship of that kind. Bond's feelings for Elektra, Bond's feelings for Tracy. There's also a moment when Bond first meets Elektra, and it's during this whole thing with the protest and not having the pipeline through this church essentially, and she says to Bond, have you ever lost a loved one, Mr. Bond, or something to that effect? I forget exactly the line. Asking him essentially, has he ever lost anyone that he's loved? Has anyone in his life that he's loved ever been killed? That's the implication of the question. You notice Pierce Brosnan's reaction. He shifts his shoulders, and he just changes the topic of conversation altogether, which is very much similar to the moment between Anya Amasova and Bond, at Max Kalba's club, and in To Spy Who Loved Me, when Anya Amasova is talking about the details, giving her understanding of Bond's dossier, including what happened to Tracy. And Bond cuts her off. He said, "All right, you've made your point." That very much echoes that moment. So we understand that there is some kind of history with the Bond character and the Tracy character from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So I think that is a very strong recall of that On Her Majesty's parallel. And we have to remember the whole thing about the family motto of Bond in the world of the James Bond films. I understand that it came up in the film. The world is not in. I'm not the film. The motto is the Bond family motto is "The world is not enough" in English, right? And that reference comes up in the film On Her Majesty's Secret Service from Sir Hilary Bray. And so that link back to On Her Majesty's is even embedded in the title of the film, The World Is Not Enough. And indeed, when we got that exchange between Elektra and Bond, just before Elektra puts him in the chair, she says, "I could have given you the world." And Bond is like, "The world is not enough. Foolish sentiment, family motto." I love that. So it's a family motto. So it's all the recalling back. And I like that too. There's a little bit of the war of the mottos in this film as well. The world is not enough versus there's no point in living if you can't feel alive. So there's these motto battles. And so all throughout the film, that whole thing about what the kind of motto, I'm not sure if it's a family motto, but the kind of motto that Elektra says, that's one of the clues that clues Bond into thinking maybe Renard and Elektra are in cahoots with each other. So I like that motto. And then it's my motto versus your motto. I could have given you the world. The world is not enough. And that makes it even more interesting, because it means that the garbage song, is sung not from Elektra King's perspective. I always thought it was from Elektra King's perspective, but in fact, if it were sung from Elektra King's perspective, it should have been said, "The world is enough," right? Because that meant that she was going to take over the world, and it would have been, to reclaim my family's heritage, right? The world is enough. No, but it's in fact, the world is not enough. That's Bond's motto, and that's his family motto, and that's what he says. I don't need the world. The world is not enough. So the song is from his perspective. It's brilliant, brilliant. But yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm completely dominating the conversation. I will now go back to the live chat, and we will go from there. The film's Damnful. The film's deeper character nuance was at Barzan's request to try to have more things to play, and definitely seems the reason for bringing in Apted. Michael Apted, yes, the director. An interesting choice for anyone who's interested in Michael Apted. Just check his filmography. Like, oh, I want that person to direct a Bond film. Wow, wow. Uh, yeah. Let's see. Um, uh, yeah, Kubrick lover. Why didn't they kill M like in Sky? Like, why keep her around? That's an interesting point. Yeah, I love that moment where, yeah, I hate you, M, and so I want you to come to me, and because Bond is missing and my Davidoff has been killed. Oh, please, M, can you come here? And she pulls on the emotional heartstrings of M, and everyone's like, "You shouldn't go, M." And Bond, when Bond meets him, "I don't think you should be here, M." And M, no, I'm gonna stay here, and I'm gonna do my job here. I'm gonna whatever my job is directly. I'm gonna be here, and it's very reminiscent of M in the "You Only Live Twice" days, right? This is the big one, 007. So perhaps for M, Judi Dench's M, this is the big one. This is the one where she is involved, and indeed, we understand that she is emotionally involved because it was through her choice of not pay or of advising King not to pay the ransom that led to this particular hatred towards M. And in fact, I think M considers it to be one of her mistakes in terms of her whatever her role was at the time she was counseling King. I'm not sure if she was in the M position at the time or not. Maybe she was, but in any event, she counseled King to not pay the ransom. In terms of the whatever the government policy was or maxim of not giving in to the demands of terrorists. And so that resulted in whatever resulted. Again, those details too are quite murky, but eventually we understand that Electra escaped, and so the ransom need not have been paid. But there is a lot of hatred boiled up against King and against M for not rescuing her when they had the chance. And I think M realizes this as being a type of maybe emotional mistake because she does describe it early on in saying, against all of my instincts as a mother, I think she decided to counsel King to not pay the ransom. And I don't know if she considers this to be a mistake on her part, but I think it could be said to be one of the ways in which maybe it could have been one of her mistakes in the field. And it is, in an interesting way, consistent with how she might be viewed to have handled the Silva situation in Skyfall. And in fact, Silva in that film, as you know, had a thing against M. And the whole plot of that film essentially was his revenge plot against M. This film is a revenge plot against M as well. So maybe instead of Elektra teaming up with Renard, maybe Elektra should have teamed up with Silva. That probably would have been a really dynamic duo. And so it would have been because then Elektra could have had the whole computer aspect and could have maybe waited a few years before and then could have initiated her plan for world domination, the destruction of the oil pipelines through Russia's network. And instead, she teamed up with Renard. But in any event, they did have that history, of course, because Renard was the kidnapper, and that leads into that's how idea of Stockholm syndrome. But we have to wonder what those details were. What is the relationship between Renard and Electra? What is it really? Who is in love with whom? When did that happen? I think we understand that Renard is in fact in love with Electra. And in fact, we understand further that that whole thing with her ear, that's a really, really creepy detail. We understand that she did it herself. The whole ruse or the story was that she was tortured physically to the point of disfigurement. That Renard is this dangerous individual, but perhaps no, maybe Renard treated her with more caring than we might otherwise think. And if that's the case, that actually adds also a level of creepiness to their relationship. Wherever the process of analysis takes you, I think it leads to the conclusion that is always going to be creepy and murky. But in any event, maybe there's a possibility that it could have been Stockholm syndrome, or it could have been something inherent in the psychology of Electra King herself from the very beginning. After all, we understand that her whole thing is she hates her father. She hates her father for some kind of way that she perceives him as having essentially stolen the legacy and wealth of her family via her mother, I think, and her older generations. Maybe Robert King, was someone who stole that from her. And so she wanted to get back at him and reclaim the glory of her family. So maybe Robert King, in her eyes, her father, in her eyes, is the impediment, is the block, is the wall. And that was made further augmented by the fact that he didn't pay the ransom. And so, if that's the case, then maybe her psychology was one of true hatred against her father even before she was kidnapped. And if that's the case, then was it Stockholm syndrome, or was it something that maybe she was thinking ahead of time? I'm going to manipulate everyone around me in order to get what it is I want. So I would suggest that there is a lot of possible interpretation here, and the film doesn't lead us one way or another. And I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to maybe go down the rabbit hole too deeply, for my own sake, anyway. But I just want to suggest that I think there is a lot of hidden complexity to, say, the Electra King character and her viewpoint towards the world, towards the people around her. Her name's Electra, but it's really a twist on the whole thing of Electra and Agamemnon and Clytemnestra. It's the twist. It's not it's not avenging the king. It's essentially avenging the queen. So that, I think, is part of the surprise. I don't know if that was meant to be there. I mean, his name is Robert King, so I always thought that that was purposeful, right? The connection between Electra and Robert King, and Electra and Agamemnon. But still, if you know that story, you know that it's sort of turned on its head, based on what we understand the Electra King story to conclude. It also reminds me, though, of course, of the reference to Electra in by Molina in For Your Eyes Only. You know, I'm half Greek, and Greek women, like Electra, always avenge their loved ones. I must go. so the but So here Electra is really avenging her loved ones, right? But this time it's her family that she's avenging, in which case maybe the Stockholm syndrome was not even a thing to begin. It could have been. It could have been. I'm not discounting that, but I'm just trying to suggest that maybe it's possible that there's one way to interpret the film and her character, to suggest that maybe there is more to it than that. But oh well. Yes. Okay. Special K. Oh yes, and so I'm sorry. And you say, why did they keep M around? So M is there because M is part of that plan, and so instead of killing M, they decide to keep her and have her part of the nuclear meltdown in Istanbul, and keep her in this. I don't know if it's it's a jail cell for antiques, I think. I don't know. But in any event, it's she's there, and it's the clock, and she's trying to get the clock because she conveniently has the tracker. It's not her tracker, it's the tracker for the nuclear bomb that they were disarming earlier. She just happens to have it in her pocket. And so when she's able to use the battery to charge it, and Bond and Zukovsky are very conveniently at the it's I think it's one of the stations for the Russian military, I think, because Zukovsky's nephew is the captain of a nuclear submarine, and so Zukovsky has clearance to access this Russian military facility, and also he decides to invite Christmas Jones and Bond to this place and essentially view military secrets before their very eyes. At this particular moment, M is able to connect the clock battery, with the tracking device, and they realize immediately that it's M. It has to be M. It can't be any other tracking device of any other nuclear bomb. It has to be M. Brilliant deduction by Bond. Absolutely brilliant. He's able to deduce, right? Ah, great. It's like Bond meets Sherlock Holmes. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But um, that's a great moment too, because it's the thing where the clock, the little battery powered clock, has fallen, and M can't retrieve it, and Electra can't help herself. She has to go in one more time and just tease M, and then M's like, "What's the time?" in a very not so obvious way. "What's the time?" And then, but fortunately for her, Electra didn't catch on, and Electra looked at the clock and gives her the clock and says, "What does she say?" "Time for you to die." Ah, what a great line. And as we know, there's going to be another Bond film called No Time to Die. So I would have loved it if Judi Dench's M had said, right after Electra had said, "It's time for you to die." And M said, "Actually, I have no time to die, or something like that, and that would have been like, oh, that maybe is the seed for the title of a film that we might see in the future, a la No Time to Die. Oh, that would have been so cool. But anyway, um, yes, so that's why they had M. And also, I must say that this is a great Judi Dench Bond moment. There are some great ways that Judi Dench, excuse me, enunciates the name Bond. She says, Bond, Bond, Bond. But here, it's a great one. She says, Bond, right? When she understands that Bond is there, and she's like, Bond, get me out of. She says, Bond. I love that. I love that. That's a great moment. That's a great. So this is very much an M film, as it is a Bond film, and in fact, this that makes it a mirror parallel film to the film Skyfall. And so we can question M's motives and her operational skills in the field and whether she makes the right decisions or not. I was suggesting in the Skyfall discussion that maybe she made a wrong decision in terms of the Bond Patrice fight on the train on top there. I don't understand why Moneypenny had only one shot. If it were really that deadly serious, then there should have been multiple shots fired. But in any event, so she should have given the order early. Take the shot. She shouldn't. She should have said take the shots. She shouldn't have said take the shot singular. She should have said take the shots plural if it were really that important to her. But in any event, let's see. Okay, okay. Um, I have to scroll down here. Yeah. Uh, sorry, just scrolling down. Yes, Christmas Jones. Um, I'm gonna make the argument for Christmas Jones. I think she's, I think she's a really good character. Really, really good. I know there's the whole Christmas, the whole thing. Maybe her name was all about the whole setup for the final punchline of the film. I get that. I get that. But I think she does a really good job. Really, really good job. There's a lot of physicality to the role, and I'm not a what is she? Is she a nuclear physicist? I'm not a nuclear physicist, and I haven't met. I think I haven't met any nuclear physicists in my life, so I don't know what they're like in real life. But I mean, she has this way of delivering lines that it might not seem like maybe Oscar worthy performance, but you think if she's a maybe scientists don't necessarily, when they speak, they don't talk in ways that are Oscar delivery type of delivery of dialogue or conversation. They talk in this, or people, or not just scientists, people in general, right? Talk in this straightforward, maybe non-actor type of manner. And I always thought that in my eyes, I thought, oh, the Christmas Jones is this type of person. She's not talking to the characters and thus to us in this actor way. She's talking to us like maybe a real person would. So it has this way of being sometimes maybe somewhat flat sounding, even though it's very intense dialogue or an intense moment. But that's in a very strange way or very interesting way, a type of capturing of a reality. And so I always thought that that was the way that that character was in my eyes, and I could always understand what it was she was saying, and it was very clear what she was saying. And a lot of the role was about character, not character, but plot details. She had to tell us what was going on. So that's not always a very easy thing to do. We've seen how it happens with a great character like Mathis in Casino Royale. I love Mathis, don't get me wrong, but my goodness, every single thing is like, okay, well, how much is in the pot again, Mathis? I just forgot. You told me, but I know I'm here in the room, but I forgot. Could you tell me, Mathis? Okay, I'll tell you how much money is in the pot. There's all this, everything is how much is in the pot. What's going? So that's all Mathis is. That's one of Mathis's main functions in that film, and it's very important in terms of a film. You need a character sometimes in order to give us plot information. Here, Denise Richards' Christmas Jones serves that because without her information, the plot has no tension because we don't understand what the significance is with the reactor. We wouldn't understand what the significance is of the bomb that's flying through the pipeline. and how it has not the full dose, or not dose is the wrong, the full amount of the plutonium that would cause a nuclear explosion. But I don't quite understand, because there's some plutonium, but not all. Um, and we understand that putting the rod into the nuclear reactor in the submarine would cause meltdown. Although it's not she who tells us, but it's Pierce Brosnan's Bond who tells us that because the reactor is submerged in water at the end, even if it explodes, it should still be okay. Which I don't quite understand, actually. Do you understand the science of nuclear reactors? Because I don't. Because I would think, from my very general base knowledge, just generally speaking, you know, if a nuclear reactor exploded in the water in Istanbul, I think that'd be a really dangerous situation, I think. I don't know. And like, a nuclear reactor exploded, but the plutonium rod is still, it's still in like Renard's chest, right? So it's still in close proximity to the nuclear reactor. I think, wouldn't there be a lot of danger in terms of and like, even Christmas Jones says, "Oh, one spark and the whole thing will blow. I have to stop it." She says that in the film, right? But then Pierce Brosnan's mom, "That's okay. No, no, don't worry about it. Let's just get out of here. The whole thing is submerged in water, so it'll be okay." So the nuclear scientist says, "Oh, I have to stop it." But Pierce Brosnan, "No, no, that's okay. It's okay. Just get out of here." And then they go up on the water, and we see a little bit of the explosion of the submarine, and it blows up, and then everything's okay. There's no bubble in the surface at the end. We just see the boat of the tourists. And so it reminds me again of Octopussy, No, I'm on the economy tour. But what happened to the submarine? It just exploded underwater. But and it has a nuclear reactor, so shouldn't you get out of there? But oh well, oh well. That's and everything's fine, and we're back to normal. But so actually, I think a lot of, in that moment, I would argue that maybe Bond's providing of information is the stuff that doesn't make sense to me. In fact, Christmas Jones's approach to the whole situation makes more sense to me, and the fact that she's really concerned about stopping it, whatever that meant. Like, I have to stop it. I don't quite know what the "it" means, but um, it- she has to. I would assume she has to stop the explosion from happening. And if that's the case, then I'm totally with what she says. I buy what it is she says, and so that's an example of why I think Christmas Jones is a really good character. There's a whole thing about Tomb Raider, right? And I think the comment was made in the comments section of the live chat, right? Oh, it's related to Tomb Raider, or she has the Tomb Raider look. I think that's fine. I think there's a physicality to her role. And I think one of the things that is maybe some James Bond discussion groups, or maybe reviews or something might make reference to, is Stacy in A View to a Kill. Um, and I would suggest too that these are probably, I mean, she's a scientist, a nuclear scientist, dealing with very dangerous materials and situations, but she's not a spy. She's not. She's a regular person. And so she doesn't speak spy, and she's like, what's going on? She's, even in that situation, she's handling herself very well, considering that all these circumstances are happening all of a sudden, all at once, and she still has to help along for the situation, and she's willing to risk her life to diffuse the bombs. She's willing to risk her life to stop that bomb in the whole oil pipeline sequence, which is very thrilling. And she's like, "Oh, I've disarmed a lot of these, but they've all been still. I haven't been moving around like this. Life's full of small challenges or something." But um, oh, someone's tampered with the bomb. And but right, and it's good that she has this delivery, especially with all the stuff's going on. It's clear and it's to the point. Someone's tampered with the bomb. I have to disarm it. I have to do this. I'm glad it's there, because otherwise I would still be trying to keep up what the heck is going on. So I'm glad Christmas Jones is here, and the physicality is great. I think Denise Richards' physicality is fantastic. She has to go underwater and push the button in order to help Bond get into. Bond has to go out of the submarine, swim back into the separate part of the submarine in order to get into the reactor room. There's no other way into the reactor room except outside. And so she has to push the button in order to get him to get the water out of that little chamber there, and her place in the submarine is flooded, and she has to get to it, but she's propelled back, and she's so there's a lot of physicality there, and there's a lot of running, there's a lot of explosions, especially at the place where like the Russian Navy station that suddenly explodes with Goldie's bomb. And so and that very trailer moment where she and Bond just jump as the explosion happens behind them, that has a lot of momentum to it, and I think it's great. I think she's a great character. And okay, yeah, I get all this. Oh, how good, right? You're right. You expect me to believe that Denise Richards is going to play a nuclear scientist in the film "The World Is Not Enough." Oh, okay, all right, but I mean, I guess they say I've never studied the field of nuclear physics, so I've never met anyone who's a nuclear physicist, and so I don't know, and I've never gone to school, so I don't know who studied. Maybe there are a lot of geniuses who are very young, right? And they graduate school when they graduate university when they're 8 or 9 or something. Maybe she is a child prodigy, and she just got her nuclear physics degree when she was very, very, very young, and so that led to her. So, and actually, we there was a moment where Bond was asking her, why are you doing this? And she said, she evades the questions, to avoid questions like that. And so she doesn't give us anything about her backstory. I think her backstory, what it is about her, where she came from, I think that would have been really interesting. I know that in the film Die Another Day, Michael G. Wilson was saying, "Oh, maybe we should make a film about Jinx and give her her own story." I actually think that we should have our own Christmas Jones movie. I really do. I think that would be an interesting film to see where she came from. And as I say, if my theory is correct, if and she was a child genius, a child prodigy, and that she got her degree when she was very young, then that means, oh, I'd love to follow that story and those struggles, and maybe she has to pass this particular exam. If she doesn't get the score, and then that leads her to why it is that she made the choice that she did to end up in this part of the world disarming bombs the way she's doing now. And then that's a very heroic deed that she is undergoing. She is risking her life in order to do this, and she there is a sense of a type of justice that she seems to feel like she is following through in her mission. So I think she's a very admirable character. I really do. I really do. And I get all the criticisms. I get all that. I get all, so, and I'm not. It's not something where I must win in this debate. I don't feel that way. So I get what the perspectives are, but at the same time, I feel like it's a good character. It really is. So, but anyway, let's see, Christmas Jones, and it's I mean, right? The line at the end of the film. It's when I was in the theater, I remember some people were laughing. I remember other people like, oh, they were groaning out loud. Oh, come on, or something like that. But, uh, but it's that's just you go to these films. That's part of what these films are. Even it maybe one of the most famous closing lines of that sort is probably Moonraker. But I don't know which is better, Moonraker or Die Another, or The World Is Not Enough. Excuse me. When it comes to the closing line, I know that in Moonraker it's not really the last line, but I'm talking about the cue line in Moonraker. Okay, let's see. All right, so I'm just gonna scroll down here a little bit, just in the interest of time. Okay. Uh, Oh, Kevin O'Connell. So I'm at the point where I was talking about Robbie Coltrane's Caviar Goo. Yeah, yeah, right. So I'm at Kevin's comment where he's talking about it would have been cool to see Robbie Coltrane's silhouette dancing with all those model women in the title sequence. I agree. I agree. Um, Special K, Robert Carlyle being wasted as a villain is a travesty to this day. Okay, we'll talk about Renard then. Renard, yes. What's his name? Zocas, aka Renard. So Um, Victor Zokas, aka Renard. Yes, so he was former KGB. So very much like Zorin, he was a former KGB turned rogue, I think. And he was responsible for the kidnapping of Electra King, and an agent tried to assassinate Renard, but uh, he didn't kill him, but he shot a bullet into his head, and so a bullet is now in his brain. What does the doctor say? The doctor, what's from Doctor Warm Flash? And so, so with this whole, I don't even know what it is. They've spent all this money to have like this huge uh, 3D computer graphic model of, of Renard's face or head, so he can do this with the bullet. So this is so it's we're meant to believe that he was shot in the head, and the bullet's still in his head, and he can still walk around and move. There doesn't seem to be any physical damage we can see. There's no scarring or anything I can tell from his head. I can't tell. Maybe there is, and we just didn't see it. But in any event, uh, it's still in his head, and he can't feel pain. Um, and the bullet is still moving in his head. He will go fast. He will go stronger, and he can't feel pain. But then he will eventually die. Okay. All right. So okay. All right. So I think that meant that he has nothing to lose and he can't feel pain. So I thought, okay, that's an interesting gimmick. And it's Robert Carlyle, who was very, at the time, uh, he was, of course, I think it was like Train Spotting, and then, of course, it was the Full Monty. And so like Robert Carlyle, the next one is going to be Robert Carlyle. So that was great, great, and he's going to have shaved head, and he's not going to feel pain. Although if he doesn't feel pain, there's a moment, if you recall, in the submarine battle, the mano a mano fight between Bond and Renard, where Bond does this, he elbows Renard, and Renard looks like he's reacting as though he's wincing in pain. He's like, oh, if if I mean, I don't know. I've never been in a situation where I haven't felt pain, except I can imagine maybe it's like, I don't know, being under like anesthetic or something. But in any event, if he can't feel pain, then why would he react that way? If you can't feel pain, then you wouldn't it wouldn't bother you if someone punched you. But he was physically bothered when Pierce Brosnan Bond elbowed him like that. So could he feel pain that way? I'm not sure, but um, anyway, he can't feel pain. He gets shot in the arm at one point, remember, in the underground complex there. But then scenes later, he's alone with Elektra, and his arm is perfectly fine. So it's not just that he can't feel pain. Maybe he's got, what is that? Like Wolverine, X-Men and Wolverine, you can heal very quickly. So maybe he's got those superpowers as well. I'm not sure, but I checked, and there's a scene where he's got the black T-shirt, and there's Electra King and Ice Cube. She really likes to play with ice cubes in bed. I don't know. I personally wouldn't recommend that, because if you drop the ice cube, it could make a little bit of a mess on the bed. But in any event, there's a whole thing, and you can see his arm, and he was shot earlier, but there's no wound, there's no bandage, I think. But anyway, Renard's villain, is it a good villain or a bad villain? I don't know. It's hard to tell, really. I like the whole thing about how he's portrayed. There's a certain sense of he's not a nihilist, because he does believe in something. He believes in this adventure, this really twisted, maniacal, megalomaniacal adventure that Electra King has him on, and so he believes in that. But he is. He knows he is marked for death, and so he has, as I say, he has nothing to lose. So he's willing to sacrifice himself. But he also is very much in love with Electra King. You can tell this when he reacts the way he does when Brosnan says, like, they're like this, haven't you heard? So is she. And he's like, takes a moment. It's just and it's like that, and it's it and I think the people make the comparisons to the character of Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. There's another Batman connection. So there was the earlier boat that looks like the Batmobile, and then the connection of Renard to Bane. And in fact, Bane in that film, I don't want to go into too much detail about The Dark Knight Rises, but there's a moment where Bane just goes berserk and he's like, ah, like punching the thing. And so that reminds me, or the Renard bit here reminds me of that as well. Although Renard, arguably, of course, doesn't have the same level of physical strength as Bane does, but still. Um, so yeah, uh, is it a good performance or bad performance? I don't know. I like one of the things that I was a little bit disappointed in, to be perfectly honest, is not necessarily the dialogue. I thought the dialogue delivery was great, and I thought there was some feeling, especially when Electra is kind of being mean to him and toying with him, like, "Oh, you can't feel anything. I felt it. You can't feel anything, can you?" And he's just like, "Ugh, that poor table." He's just punching the table, and so I can't feel anything at all. Look, I can't feel it. But that's the whole point. And actually, that's a really terrible situation to be in. I would think that it would bring you so much like invincibility because you can't feel pain. No one can stop you. But it also means that you cannot feel, and he cannot feel. So there is this sense of the he cannot enjoy the physical pleasures, the carnal pleasures, perhaps, that the relationship that he has with Electra, he would really want most in the world. So perhaps this is a curse to him more than anything. And so I think the connections, in fact, should be made. They can be made to The Dark Knight Rises Bane, but actually also one can make connections to. I don't know if you know the film, which is called Big Trouble in Little China. But in fact, there's a character in that film called Lo Pan, and so I always think Robert Carlyle's Renard is like almost like Lo Pan as well. He wants to have the ability to feel something. And if that's the case, then I can really understand that motivation very much so. And he is driven further by this obsession that he has for Elektra. And it's that obsession, and it's the fact that Elektra's really toying with him. She's really cruel, emotionally cruel in this intimate bedroom scene, that it makes me question whether she really loves him or she's just manipulating him just like everyone else. So, um, but yes, so those things about the Renard character I think are brilliant and brilliantly portrayed. Where I always like, I wish it could have been done a little bit differently, is the bit where he's got the machine gun and the way he's just shooting. He's a we're meant to believe that he is an ex KGB agent and now this international terrorist. So, but whatever that means, I don't know what that means itself. But he's just like, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just the random image that I have in my head about how people should, how train people who are trained with arms and firearms would use a gun like that. He's just holding it like, and he's like, he's got his shoulders up, like he doesn't even, and he's just so, and man, you'd have to think, the way that they use the props here. Uh, there's the bit in The View to a Kill where they're using the machine guns, and it's like Zorn's got the machine gun, and, and he's not. Well, he was also ex KGB, so maybe they went to different training camps. In terms of training of firearms, but I don't know. I always thought that Renard's use of the firearms was a bit bland, and it was just he was standing in one place, which actually doesn't make sense. If he really wanted to be effective, he would just move around. But maybe that's a reflect. Now that I think about it, he can't feel any pain, so he's like, I'm not going to feel anything if I get shot anyways. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to stand here with my shoulders shrugged and just shoot. So maybe that was it. But I always felt that to be a little bit maybe counterproductive in terms of a strategy that one might probably employ when one is using a machine gun to repel opponents back. But in any event, um, yeah. So his use of firearms was probably, for me, in my eyes, the weakest part of his character. But it formed, as I say, a murky thing because ultimately we don't know what the basis of the emotional relationship is between Electra King and Renard, which then brings me to the whole significance of Electra King as well. And I will get to that, the character of Electra King. But first, oh, and before I do, and then it just brings about when I think of Renard and the plan, I think who's working for whom? What do people know? Do people know within the organization that Renard and Electra King are working together? Maybe some people do, some people don't. I don't know because like like okay, Renard was responsible for killing the banker in the beginning of the film, but left Bond alive because Bond needed to deliver the explosive money to M and Robert King at the beginning. Okay, okay, and we understand that um, this is also meant to show us that Renard is back and Renard is a threat, which is meant to make us believe Electra King more in whatever it is she says. Okay, okay. Then we're meant to believe that Davidoff works for Renard, and so there's a plan for Renard and his crew wearing these blue jumpsuits to infiltrate a particular site area to steal essentially like weapons grade plutonium from a bomb or missile or something. Okay. And so they all infiltrate, but we're meant to believe that they don't know what Davidoff looks like because Pierce Brosnan's Bond is able to essentially kill Davidoff and take his place. They don't, no one says, wait a minute, you don't look like the Davidoff I know. So either they don't know who Davidoff is, or they don't care, or I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's everything's happening at night, so they don't. Maybe they can't see very well or something. Although right, Davidoff and Bond don't look that similar in physicality, but in any event, okay, maybe they're all working for the scientist or not. I don't know. This Why would you shoot the scientist? Because the scientist is also kind of corrupt. Um, uh, uh, right? The scientist is corrupt, but you need the scientist to get in there because the fact that the Russian scientist is much older than Bond, that is what triggers Christmas Jones to thinking that Bond is an imposter. But the scientist was in on it, kind of, right? Because he was helping to supply the Parahawk uh, helicopter attack machines or something that were attacking the Electra and Bond while they were skiing, which also doesn't make sense to me. Because why would they have this whole thing of attacking them on skis unless it was blank bullets or something? And I don't know if it was actual or maybe fake explosions or something. It was all meant for Bond to further believe that Electra was in danger. But if so, that was a very dangerous plan. But in any event, why would you kill the Russian scientist? Why don't they recognize Davidoff when Bond is play acting? And so what's the plan? And so ultimately the plan was to take steal this weapons grade plutonium from this particular site, and then they needed Bond to deliver the plane or Dav. But if they knew that it was Bond, why did they need Bond alive to deliver the plane? Davidoff was going to do that anyway. So Davidoff was part of their plan. So why I don't understand why they needed Bond to do that. But okay, okay. So then the whole plan of Renard was to take this because it was part of Elektra's plan in order to use it to, and then at the same time, Elektra pays off Zukovsky in order to have Zukovsky convince his nephew in the Russian Navy, who's captain of a nuclear submarine, to stop off very quickly at Istanbul, only to be killed by some poison brandy or something. And then so that leaves the nuclear submarine and the plutonium in the hands of Electra King and Renard. And why they don't put the plutonium in the reactor immediately at the time, I will never know. They have to have the submarine go out first and then dive. I'm not sure why that's the case. Maybe it's because if the reactor is turned on, maybe that sets off some kind of signal, a satellite pickup. I don't know. I think that's probably the case. I think that's hinted at, right? Because then Bond says we have to go back to the top level in order for the satellite to pick us up. So that's why he tries to do that. But the buoyancy turns it's imperfect, so it turns the submarine like bottom up. I think it's not top up; it's bottom up, and then right, and it also begs the question: if Bond has a license to kill, why didn't he just shoot all the people in the control room in the submarine. He just said, no, no, everyone freeze, put your hands up, put your hands up. Bond wouldn't do that, right? He'd just shoot them because he's a cold-blooded assassin working for Her Majesty's government. So I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Let's see. But what was the question? Yeah, so it was Renard. So yeah, I'm a bit mixed on the Renard character for those reasons, but I can kind of understand what you're saying there. That's for sure. Okay, sorry, just to move on because we are limited in time. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling. Marlin is here. Hello. Ragman is here. Hello. Nice to see you. Yes, the Electra's played by Sophie Marceau. I'm just scrolling down. Great conversations, by the way. Thank you. Bonnie Nasiri, hello. What's your favorite fight in the Bond series? Mine is Green 4. Oh, versus Necros in the kitchen and the living diary. That's a great one. Green 4 to base, yes. Right. Yeah, it's the liquid in the money. It's liquid the money is coated and that explodes. Yes. Um, yeah. But how does that work? How does that work? I have no idea how that works. But okay. Um, yeah. Just, okay. Just give me a moment here. Okay, my foot's asleep. Oh, William Newcomer is here. Hello, my friend. Samuel Stevens is here. Hello. It's nice to see you. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm really late. I'm just gonna scroll down here. Oscar is here. Hello from Florida. I hope you're well in Florida, my friend. Yeah. Um, Schlock Horror is here. Hello. It's nice to see you. Oh yeah, while I'm scrolling down here, that reminds me too of Zukovsky, and I always remember the scene at the end where Zukovsky gets shot and dies, and he's got his cane gun, right, and he's got it pointed at Electra, but then he does a little Blofeld Osato thing where he got the gun pointed there, but then he goes and points it somewhere else, and he points it at Bond, and he doesn't even point it at Bond. He goes like this, and then boom, and it has a close up of one of the bolt fasteners or whatever it is the that has Bond trapped there. Now I misremembered that. I always thought that that was something that fastened his leg. Bond's leg to the chair, and that it fastened Bond's knee to the chair. So I always thought, oh, that's a really cool throwback to Goldeneye, because we understand in Goldeneye that Bond had shot Zukoski on a mission in his leg, in his right, his knee or something. And it's like, my knee aches, right? And that's why he has the limp, because Bond gave him the limp. And I always thought that this was his way of repaying the what was referred to in that film as a professional courtesy. And Zukovsky was repaying the professional courtesy by shooting at the same part of the leg that we assume Bond shot at when they were on that mission. So that's always thought in my head. No, no, I realized no, it's he was shooting at Bond's wrist in order to break him free. So that was an interesting little twist. So Zukovsky, yeah, Zukovsky was well, that was a yeah. So it wasn't a real. It wasn't the way that their arc ended the way that I thought in my mind, but still, it's a great way to end that. And Zukovsky is a great character in the Bond series. A lot of great dialogue from him. Um, that casino scene is really great. Although I mentioned earlier those X-ray glasses that Bond is wearing, he says I would imagine it's like, well, there are a couple things I would think. First of all, it's information overload because everywhere you look, there's some like naked person, and then another thing is like Like it's why would you wouldn't what Q the glasses wouldn't you can't see through like undergarments, right? Because undergarment you can see through clothing, but undergarments are quite conspicuously you can't see through those. So what figures? But anyway, yeah, so that's those glasses. But oh, I see we have a visitor. So this is good timing because um uh you want to say hello? No? Oh, can I see this? Oh, can I see this for a second? Can I see this? What is this? Is this your toy? Can I see this? Oh, all right. So this is actually good. Can I just borrow this for one moment? I'll give it back to you. Okay. Oh, can I have that one too? That's really okay. So this really this is good because my son is here and he's just woken up, and it is good because he brought me one of his toys, which is I'm glad because it's actually relevant to the world is not enough. This actually reminds me. Are you gonna go? I'll be back in a second, okay? I'm almost done. But this reminds me, I have to remember to return this, but this reminds me of the shape. Remember when after Elektra has been killed and Bond is about to jump into the water, that jump dive and it suddenly cuts to the bottom, and I think it's like a model or something, because Bond takes off his jacket, he makes a dive, and it suddenly cuts down to a bird's eye view, and it's like this. And I always thought that this shape looked like the way that Bond was diving, in the water. It's not quite Jinx. Jinx, of course, would do this way. That's Jinx's diving, but Bond does it this way, So, but anyway, I have to thank my son for that. But yeah, so oh, you're done. Oh, here you go. Here you go. I'll give it back to you. Okay. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much. You want to play this now, or do you want to play it a little bit later? It's up to you. You okay? Do you have your nose is a little? Do you need? Oh yeah. Do you want to use a little tissue? Do you want to get a tissue? Oh no. Do you want to do a tissue? Why didn't you use this? Can you, I don't have any tissues in here. Can you get some? Can you get some tissues from the kitchen? And then we can yeah. Just you sound a little bit stuffed up like me. Can you get me some tissues as well? Thanks, buddy. Thank you. I'm almost done here. All right. So where was I? Oh, anyway, while I'm trying to get back my train of thought, I'll just go to the chat here. Let's see. Schlock Horror, LMAO Dice Guy. I never knew you were such a talented chin thespian. Oh, thank you very much. And at the point where I was talking about Pierce Brosnan's chin. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you hungry? No? Do you want something to drink, like milk or something, or not yet? Do you want to say hi? Oh no! Oh no! No! That's okay. We'll take care of that later. Okay. All right. Because we have to go. There's a lot of stuff going on, so unfortunately, Japan, right, or Tokyo is in a bit of a tough situation at the moment. So we have to make sure that we have everything we need before this whole world health crisis is really still affecting us in this way. So we've had some news of the past few days, but we're going to try to cope with the best that we can. And it's also Sunday, so we'll try to take care of the things we need to take care of later today. But before we do, let me just go back to the discussion of The World Is Not Enough, which is, I spoke a little bit about the Electra King character and her complexity and how she seems to have this way about being able to manipulate the people around her, including M, by the way. I made mention the fact that she manipulates men, but she manipulates everyone. She's able to do so, and she's really able to rely on emotional heartstrings, pull on the heartstrings, and do this and do that in order to get her ultimate, or to achieve her ultimate goal, which is, do you want to play now, or do you want to do it a little bit later? I can finish this up, and then we can play in the other room. Do you want to do that? Okay. Can I? Do you mind if I finish this first? I'll try to finish this, and then because I want to just finish talking. Is that okay? All right, thank you so much. So I will, as soon as I finish, you'll be the first to know. Okay? Okay? All right. All right. Actually, why don't we do this? Let me just let me take a quick break, maybe a minute or so, and I will do a quick game with my son, and then I will be back momentarily. We still have about maybe 30 minutes or so, but please enjoy the conversation, and I apologize, but I will be back, and we will continue and conclude the discussion of The World Is Not Enough upon my return. So be back momentarily. There we go. I'll be back. All right, so do you want some milk or something? Or right, we can get some milk. Well, actually, I want some milk. Maybe let's go in that way. Let's go over here. Okay, let's go over here. Leo, come on. Come on, come on, come on. No, 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 come here, this way. You got it? Okay. You got it? You got so much stuff there. Here you go. Here you go, come on. We'll do this over here. You ready to turn that on? Oh, I'm going to close the door. Is that okay? I'll be back soon. Maybe. I think so. Well, we'll see. Okay, so I am returned. Okay, so sorry about that. I was just, my son woke up and we have we're doing, let's see. It was great because actually I was thinking, oh, I really should have, I really needed this in order to illustrate one of the points about The World Is Not Enough. In fact, this is very much like Diamonds Are Forever and Dr. No in terms of how Bond does the dives into the water. But I didn't want to use this without making sure that he was okay with it. In fact, he came in just the right time, so that was perfect. My son. So, but in any event. Let me just go back here to this conversation and let's see. So, let's see. Oh, I'm so sorry. So we're gonna we're gonna wind down the conversation pretty soon. So it's right now 9 o'clock. So, we have to figure out the next film. So I see that I think Cooper Glover and Damn Fool and others, I think, are starting the process of figuring out what will be the next film. So thank you very much. So yes, please begin discussions of what we have, what we can vote on. So anyone who wants to talk about or what film you want to talk about next in the James Bond series, please think about it and cast your vote, as it were. And in the meantime, we will wind down this discussion about The World Is Not Enough. So the let me just go back here. I'm so sorry. Jim Salas was here, but I think he's gone. If you're still here, Jim, thank you very much for stopping by. Um, Jerry G says, why is the review almost as long as the movie? It's not a review, it's just a discussion. And so I think discussions can be had about films. They don't have to be within the same running time as the movie. I don't quite understand that, to be perfectly honest. Films exist beyond the running time, and so it's fun to talk about films. This is not a review. Let's see. Let's see. Damien is here. Thank you so much. All right. 5 bags of popcorn is here. Hello. Thank you very much. Into Gray is here. Hello. Thank you so much, my friend. And Kim is here. Hello, my friend. Hello. Gosh, I just want to make sure. Let's see. Um, let's see here. Richard Albert, hello. Jim Salas, I think Daisuke has notes pasted on the ceiling. I don't, but thank you very much. I think I think is that a compliment? Maybe it's not. I don't know. But anyway, all right. Thank you for the comment. Anyway, let's see. Kevin O'Connell, Pork Chop Express, Screw Chair. Yes. So there is some Big Trouble in Little China stuff that's going on here. Yeah. Low pan. Yeah. Um, why was my low pan connection a bit too much? Sorry. Right. Oh well. Uh, Into Gray, thank you so much. Wow, you left a super chat. Thank you very much. I'm very touched by that. Thank you. Into Gray, your comments are always wonderful. I always look forward to them, and the fact that we're able to talk to each other over the comment section. I can hear your thoughts about the Criterion releases, and that's so much fun. Such a pleasure to know you, my dear friend. Thank you, thank you. Into Gray, what a great person you are. Schlock Horror says Zukowski is awesome. Yes. Yes. And yeah, Oscar says nice Ultraman toy. Yes. I was fortunate because our neighbor, uh, maybe some year, yeah, before, yeah, it was before the whole COVID-19 hit, and our neighbor, um, we live in this apartment building, and so in one of the houses that neighbors the apartment building, we were friends with that family because they had a dog, and we would meet them almost every day when they would walk their dog and we would walk our dog. And the it was a family, it was a big family, and the father was a or is a huge fan of Ultraman. All the movies, all the TV movies, TV series on whatever it was, VHS, and all the toys. But for whatever reason, I think they were moving, and so they had to, or he had to let go of a lot of the toys that he had, and so he had this huge box. He said, "Do you want this?" And I said, "Oh, great!" And so we got this, and so these are just a couple of many of these toys that we were able to get. So we were very fortunate in that way. So, and it does have the shape of um, of the dive, I think. Yeah. Uh, well, let's see. I'm just trying to think here. I was talking about Electric King's character, but I think I spoke about everything. Oh yes, the one thing about Electric King's character that I forgot to mention, which is I think Damn Fool, Idealistic Crusader, hinted at this about the way that her character turns. We understand that she is maybe an ally, perhaps of Bond, someone that Bond has to protect, but she ends up being the ultimate villain in this film. We think that Renard is the ultimate villain, but in fact, it's all Elektra's plan. So she is the main right? She's the main villain, which is, I think, a really unique turn. I don't think a turn like this has ever been had in a James Bond film. If so, please correct me if I'm wrong, but probably the closest that comes to this is For Your Eyes Only and Christatos, but not to this degree, because even in that film, For Your Eyes Only, Christatos is arguably still a secondary type of character, and so maybe we aren't given as much emotional investment into his character as we would say potentially anyway, Electric King's character. And so when the turn happens here, I think it's very abrupt and well, not abrupt, but it's very effective. Maybe a similar type of turn could be said to be happening with Fiona Volpe's character in Thunderball, but we already know kind of where her allegiances are when we first are introduced to her at the start of or the early part of that film, Thunderball. And of course, there are turns in the opposite direction. We go, or actually, no, maybe the closest to is maybe. Uh, Georgy Koskov in The Living Daylights, maybe. But that could be one. But I would say perhaps even with Koskov, there wasn't that sense of emotional investment. And in fact, it could be argued that in that film, Bond was kind of on the trail, sort of, with that film. Incidentally, speaking of Living Daylights, there's another great connection. Do you remember in Living Daylights where it was Pushkin, who looks very similar, in fact, in physical appearance to Zukovsky in this film, even down to the facial hair. And so uh, the way that, remember, Pushkin is in the hotel, and he's got the flowers for, I don't know if it's his wife or his mistress. I forget. I don't know if that information is revealed. But he goes in, and the ruse is to have him into the room, and then Bond is there, and so Bond uses the young woman, in the hotel room to bring Pushkin in, and then he subdues Pushkin, and he says, "You should have brought lilies," which is one of the great lines in The Living Daylights, by the way. But I love the way he does it. You should have brought lilies. Um, if Pierce Brosnan had done that, oh, you should have brought lilies if you wanted to stay alive, or something like that. But I was just, the reason I bring it up is there's this very similar scene, the way that he has Zukovsky come into the room in the caviar factory, because Denise Richards is sitting on the couch in a maybe purple dress, I think, and then Bond closes the door, and he has that worker of the factory, this maybe elderly gentleman. He's like, "Oh, go!" And I love the bit. No, not that way, the other way. And he has the guy walk in the other direction. In any event, the ruse of bringing the Pushkin character or the Zukovsky character, that is used in Living Daylights and also in the World Is Not Enough. But uh, the what is it? Those, I think, callbacks to other films are there both directly and indirectly. That's for sure. But in any event, yeah, Electra King's character, that turn, I think, is a very that's a shocking one, because of the emotional investment that we have, or potentially have anyway, with with that setup. So I think that's one of the really significant moments or significant parts of this uh, uh, this film, and that's what makes this film, I think, very, for lack of a better word, important in the context of the Bond franchise, the Bond film franchise, anyway. And also, it really adds a spin to the concept of the so-called Bond girl and also the Bond villain, because it makes them one and the same. And as I say, we haven't really had that before. And also, the way in which Electra King uses or manipulates people, she uses emotional, tugs at the heartstrings things and tactics like she does with M. She also uses, in many ways, her sexuality in order to exact or extract activities or acts or information from the people who are essentially her targets of manipulation, where she can use that level of sexuality. Of course, she probably wouldn't be able to use it for everyone, but where she can, she does, and that, I think, is a really, it creates this very complex crossover into the way in which the so-called Bond girl is portrayed in these films, the Bond films, versus how this is essentially taken in a very different direction, and very interesting one, in the context of Electra King's character. So I actually think that this film is very significant. It is one of the strongest of Brosnan's era. It is all over the place, that's for sure, and it does do things that are still very camp and quite ludicrous in a lot of ways, and a lot of things that are inexplicable and totally beyond my comprehension. And I'm not saying that I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm actually not so smart at all. So a lot of things I don't get. But even when I try, I still can't quite get what's going on in a lot of this film. But as be that as it may, I think this one of the strongest aspects is the Electric King for all it is, and even the stuff that's not explained, for all the murky things about what it is her psychology really is, don't really know. But and maybe she turns into sort of cartoon villainy at the end there. But there's some moments that's like I love the line where where's he's like where's M, and she says, oh, pretty soon she'll be everywhere. And that's just a throwaway line, but she does it with such a wit and aplomb. And But then there are moments, of course, where she turns into real cartoon villainy. But that's great too, because that's part of the James Bond film formula, and I think she fits into that really well in a unique way. And so, just to conclude this point, I think the Electra King character is the character of this film, and I think that's what makes this film very significant in Brosnan's era, and also, I dare say, in the Bond film era as well. And also, just other points before I forget, this is, of course, the final appearance of Q. And we understand that he always tried to teach Bond two lessons. First, never let them see you bleed. And the second, always have an escape plan. So like that, yeah, that was very emotional. And I was actually expecting at the end there maybe we'd see one more scene with Q, but no, it's R. Although it begs the question, what is the naming system, the code naming system? Is it in alphabetical order? This seems to suggest it is QR, but but maybe is it to do with their names, what their names are, and just takes the first letter from their first name or last name? I'm not sure. But I understand that Q was Major Boothroyd, so he's not called B. So if it's taken from his name, then maybe his first name begins with a Q. I don't know if that's the case. But we also understand that he works in Q branch, so then he becomes Q, maybe because of the fact that he's affiliated with Q branch. But if that's the case, then wouldn't everyone who works at Q branch be called Q? If that's the case, then you have to call everyone Q, 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 Q. Maybe if that's too confusing, Q1, Q2, Q3. But if that's the case, then it would be very difficult to follow. So, but anyway, we have R, and we will see R again in another film. And he's very keen on automobiles and beverage cup holders, and he he seems to think that people don't know how to use zippers, and so yeah. So this is the intro. This is the final last hurrah of Q and the beginning of R. And as I say, we will see R again in another film. So I think that pretty much is it as far as the world is not enough discussion is concerned. From my angle, we'll leave the conversation open for a moment to again close this and then to discuss what the next film would be. But I think, yeah. Thank you very much. As just to conclude, and this will be my last comment on the film, which is, I do enjoy this very much. I think it is very emblematic of the Pierce Brosnan era in that it is all over the place. I really think it is all over the place. It's trying to be a lot of things at once, and I do think Pierce Brosnan's era is like that. It's trying to be a lot of things at once. Perhaps the most maybe tonally consistent film in his era, excuse me, is arguably Goldeneye. But from Goldeneye, from Tomorrow Never Dies onward, I would suggest that there are a lot of tonal inconsistencies because it's trying to capture every aspect, I think, or trying to do something new, whereas stay with the classic formula. And I'm not sure if this film knows exactly what it wants to do in that vein. But even in that vein, we can still look at these various points and tones and look at them as being different parts of an overall sum, of an overall whole. And if I let go of the what does this mean, or what does that, if I let go of that, I can have a very good time with this. And I hope I could convey this, how much of a good time I really have with this. And they're just this is yet another example of I mean, this is an example why I love Bond films, because they are ludicrous, they're over the top, but that's again part of the joy and fun, not just of watching the films, but also of talking about them. And just as you're talking, you're like, I can't believe I'm actually talking about this. This is great, right? Just much like Bond as he's saying the line in the torture chair, one last screw. It's like as he's talking, it brings a smile to his face, even at the point of dying. He's like, one last screw. So, anyway, so that's my take on The World Is Not Enough. It could be, I don't know if it's my absolute favorite Brosnan film or Pierce Brosnan James Bond film, but it's up there. I mean, I know there aren't that many, but it's definitely one that I really, really like. And so, if it's not my number one Brosnan film, it's probably number two Brosnan film. But The World Is Not Enough, right? I could have given you the world. The world is not enough. Foolish sentiment, family motto. All right, my friends. That's it for the discussion on the film. Thank you so much. Integray, thank you very much again for your kind super chat. You are very, very kind indeed. So I will leave it to the group to figure out what the final film will be, or not the final film, the next film in the yes, Timothy says yes. Q is a quartermaster. That's what Q is for. Yes, yes. Q branch quartermaster. But then, if that's the case, then right, what does R stand for? So is it just alphabetical or what? So that doesn't right. So my whole comment was about the relationship between the naming of R. What is the basis for the naming of R? Which I'm not quite sure on myself, but oh well. Thanks for the comment, by the way. It's great. Okay, so is it Thunderball? Is that right? You know the film Mars Attacks? You know this Tim Burton film Mars Attacks? I love Mars Attacks. Speaking of Pierce Brosnan, right? It has Pierce Brosnan in Mars. As basically every other everyone is in Mars Attacks, including Jack Nicholson and Tom Jones. I love the trailer to Mars Attacks because it's like, oh, he sings the song "It's Not Unusual." I thought it would have been so cool if he were singing the song to Thunderball in Mars Attacks, and he's fighting the aliens and Jim Brown and who else is in that film? Sarah Jessica Parker is in there. Michael J. Fox is in that film. Natalie Portman is in that film, right? And right, yeah, what Mars Attacks. But why was I thinking about? Oh yes, Tom Jones. Tom Jones Thunderball, of course. Yes, Tom Jones sings a song to Thunderball. Um, Although it would have been really cool. Talk about this. It would have been really cool. Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Uh, yeah, yeah. But there's nothing wrong with the song Thunderball. I like it very much, and the movie too. That's an interesting film. Thunderball. I yeah I it's yeah, it's very interesting. We'll talk about that one. You know, I I like it, but I don't. How should I put it? I like the film Thunderball, but even to this day, I don't. I sometimes I don't quite know to what degree I like the film Thunderball. You know what I mean? It's a film that's like, oh, it's great, but I've never really. I guess I have. I've always struggled, or I've always questioned as to exactly why I like Thunderball. And when I try to answer that question, that brings up a whole range of possibilities and discussion points for me that make it, I think, a very fascinating work. Of course, it has a very interesting production history, as we know, really, really interesting. Probably the most significant production history, or it's relevant to the most production in terms of its production details. It's probably the most relevant set of facts and circumstances that affect the entirety of the Bond film franchise, as we know. And Thunderball is a result of that. It's not the be all end all of that, but it's a result of that because those were always there from the very beginning. And also with that, we have, I think, a film that is it seems like a continuation of Goldfinger, but it's also standing on its own. It's a Terrence Young film, but it feels very different from the Terrence Young films that we saw in Dr. No and From Russia with Love. And so it's a film that I think is very unique in that way. And I love its pace too. There are places where it's so fast, and then there are other places where it's very slow and very much taking its time. So Thunderball. Can't wait to talk about that one. So Thunderball it is. So I will look forward. I will prepare the I will prepare I'll try to schedule the conversation or the live chat or live stream next time for Thunderball. Um and let's see. That means we're actually, I was thinking about it, and we've actually gone through a lot of these films already. I was thinking, oh, we have so many to go, but actually we don't, right? Because after this, there are, in terms of the feature films anyway, there are films like what is it? Next is going to be Thunderball. We have to redo For Your Eyes Only because of the technical glitch, but we'll count that one. So we have to do For Your Eyes Only. Okay, let's go bond by bond. So in terms of Connery, after Thunderball, the only thing we have to do what is From Russia with Love. Is that right? So that's it, right? From Russia with Love, and then we're done with the Connery era. As far as Roger Moore, there's the For Your Eyes Only redo, and also Octopussy, I think. Yeah. So the those are the only ones for Roger Moore, I think. For Timothy Dalton, it's License to Kill. Um, and for Daniel Craig, it's I'm sorry. Then for Pierce Brosnan, it's Tomorrow Never Dies and Die Another Day. Okay, yes. And then for Daniel Craig, it's what? It's Spectre. Oh, okay. All right. So Spectre. So okay. So we have, and then we have Never Seen Ever Again, and then Casino Royale. So all right, so we've got a number left, and maybe by that time, maybe No Time to Die will have been released. I don't know. If that's the case, we'll try to discuss No Time to Die, although that is, of course, to be determined. Um, yeah, so there's quite a bit left, but now that I think about it, we've finished discussing more films than we have left, as it were. So that's all thanks to you, my dear friends, for all that you do and your support. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. So Thunderball it is. Thank you so much, my dear friends. This has been great. Um, and oh, this has been really great. Uh, Oh, Cooper Glover says, I think Thunderball is Connery's worst Bond film to me, along with Never Say Never Again. Chronologic, hello, Chronologic. It's nice to see you. Let's see. Um, all right. Oh gosh, is it the Oscars? Are the Oscars going on? I'm totally out of it when it comes to awards and stuff. So the Oscars are going on, right? Or they will go on? Is that right? I'm not sure, but I'm sorry, I don't. Uh, Yeah. Oh, Spectre. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, Spectre. Yeah. Oh, oh my goodness. I mean, there's another torture chair sequence in Spectre, just as there was in The World Is Not Enough. But I think, yeah, I think, yeah, Spectre. I really should try to watch it again. I mean, I'm gonna be upfront with you. Uh, that's a tough one for me. Spectre's a really tough one for me. Um, yeah. Okay. All right. Um, yeah. Let me try to regroup and return my thoughts to moments of The World Is Not Enough. So, how should we end this live stream? We always end with a little thing about um, how should we end this live stream? Oh, okay. I know. Okay, I'll say, I'll say to you, I could have given you the world. And then you can say back to me in the chat, right? What does Bond say in that moment? So I'm Electra King. I could have given you the world. And you can say back to me the line. Okay, so that'll be the way we'll end the live stream. All right. So, my dear friends, thank you so much. Um, thank you so much. Oh, yes. Uh, Seth Walsh, you should put the DVD back in the shelf like a plutonium rod. So this is the DVD. So Seth, so let's see. This is what you're talking about, right? Like cut, cut. Oh, my hands. Cut. No, still, yes, still putting the rod in there. Yes, Yes, thank you, Seth. Wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. Damien, there's no point in living if we can't discuss 007. Yes. uh I guess there's the other line, which is a slight groaner line, like, welcome to my nuclear family. Oh, all right, sorry about that. Or my goodness, yeah. Yeah, that's oh, oh, oh my goodness. Making the whooshing noise, yes. Numstruck, hello, Numstruck, hello. Yes. Um, Damn fool, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Damn Fool, for letting me know about that soundtrack information. I didn't know that. So hopefully maybe I can find that soundtrack. Thank you. I'm not a soundtrack collector or anything like that, but I don't have all the, I used to have all the soundtracks up to a certain point, the original initial CD releases of them, but you know, they were released in deluxe special editions of those. I never had those. Oh yes, Slock Horror says, my favorite line is when Christmas Jones asks Bond if he was hoping, are you hoping for a glimmer? Yeah, and that's, I love that delivery. Denise Richards, are you hoping for a glimmer? Yeah, that's great. So let's see. Seth Walsh, what are you doing? My goodness. Oh, no, this is man, my goodness, you're too kind, Seth. Into Gray and Seth Walsh, thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Oh, oh my goodness. Uh, if Electric King said, or like, oh, I could have given you a super chat. I wouldn't say, the super chat is not it. I wouldn't say that. I would say, oh no, I would say, thank you so much for this. Thank you so much, Electric King, for the super. And like you, Seth Walsh, thank you so much. You're very, very kind. Thank you. Wow. Um, oh yes, Damien says, I wonder if the world will ever have another Millennium Bug. Yes, there's a little quote or little thing that references that R makes at the end there. Um, right. Oh, it's getting redder. And in fact, that moment that I forgot this, that heat mapping during sexual intercourse at the end, that's isn't that that's like a Gaspar Noé like film or something? But anyway, um, yeah. Laney Lane, thank you so much. You're very kind. Yes. Uh, yeah, yeah, very kind indeed. All right. So. Chronologic says have it on vinyl. You have the soundtrack on vinyl? That's so cool. Which one? Oh, Chiggers, hello, thank you so much. Um, yes, Shawcar is the secret Gaspar Noé Bond film. That would be an interesting one to see. Um, yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know what that would be. My goodness. Anyway, um, I don't. Yeah, yeah, that would be an interesting one indeed. But uh all right. We are, I have to go now. Yes. Um yes, the whole Christmas, right? Right, I thought Christmas, Christmas coming once a year. Um Whenever think of that line, I always think of the thing, a broken clock is right twice a day. For some reason, that's for what why do I think, like, I know of the sexual innuendo, but why do I think of that whole broken clock thing first? I don't know, but anyway, so even when I watched the film again recently for the live scene, the first thing that jumped into my mind was a broken clock is right twice a day or something. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, sorry about that, Erwin. And great discussion, Daisuke. We'll catch up on your most recent disaster movies videos. Oh yes, thank you very much. That's going very well. Um, I hope that that list isn't too disappointing. I haven't spoken about the. Well, I've spoken about some of the major ones, but not all of the major ones yet. Those, just between you and me, those will come later. I promise. I promise they will come later. I will actually. I finished the one. Uh, I've already uploaded it. I just have to make it public. So after I'm done with the stream, I'm going to make the day public. That whatever it is, day 13, I think, public. So uh, yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, Erwin, for that. That's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it very much. Um, and so, oh, thank you, Damn Fool, for the link. Oh, great, great. I will check it out. I will certainly check it. Thank you so much. And my dear friends, thank you always, always. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. Really, it's just it's this. I mean, Bond films are Bond films. They're fun, but also the fun is just being able to talk about them and hear what you have to say about them, and all the stuff about the books and the soundtracks, and your little observations about the details, right? So cinema is alive. It's right. It's part of it is the film, but it's also cinema is right. What we think about it and what we feel about it and how we express it. This is also cinema. Cinema is not just the thing, the disc that we put into the machine, or the roll of film that goes through the projector, and light shines through it. That's part of it. That is the stuff that we see. But cinema is the thing that we feel and experience, both the film itself, the experience of watching it, and also the stuff that we remember and experience and we recall and we feel as we watch the film. And that is endless, absolutely endless. And the world is not enough as part of that. I really believe that. So thank you so much, my dear friends. All right, so Richard is here. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Schlockhor. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Seth Walsh. Thank you for your last comments. Damn Fool, Cooper Clever. Thank you so much. As always, you are great. Well done. Damn Fool Idealistic Crusader has a great YouTube channel. Cooper Clever 1972 has a great YouTube channel. Seth, right? Seth Walsh has a great YouTube channel. So many YouTube. I should take more time to plug more YouTube channels. Everyone's so great. Check everyone's YouTube channel out. Subscribe to them. Hit their notification bell icon. Support them. Thank you. Oh, Schlock Horror. Thank you so much. Let's see. Stay safe, everyone, and please be well. Thank you. And oh, so you've got a new video up, Seth Walsh. Great, great, great. Looking forward to it, my dear friend. Thank you so much. 5 bags of popcorn. The world is not enough, darling. Are you saying that in the Roger Moore voice? Oh, would it be great if Roger Moore said, oh, if Electric King said, oh, I could have given you the world. Oh, well, actually, thank you, but oh, I'm I'm flattered, but the world is not enough. Oh, that's foolish. Oh, it's actually a family motto. But we can just sit here and enjoy the world while we can. But ultimately, the world is. Oh, that would be great. Roger Moore and the world is not enough. But anyway, thank you. Oh, Timothy, thank you so much, my dear friend. So, and Damn Full Idealist Crusader. Yes, you are going. You are making your Bond commentaries. Wow, wow. So, where are you? What's the one that you're gonna do next, Damn Fool? Please remind us. What's the next one that we can look forward to? Pat Fisher is here. Hello, thank you. And then I'll get that info, and then we will end. Kevin Connell said more making his ooh noises during the torture. Or he's like maybe what is it like what he says to Teehee, he says to like Butterhook or something. I don't know. Yeah, he never gets right, so it doesn't get that treatment. So up next is licensed. Oh, great, great, wonderful. So enjoy that Damn Fool. I look forward to your comments, and then we'll have to talk about that film as well here. But first up is Thunderbolt, so I will make the announcement accordingly. So anyway, my dear friends, thank you so much, and so until we see each other again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great Bond movies. And so with that, my friends, I could have given you the world. Oh, thank you very much, my friends. Thank you very much. Foolish sentiment. Excellent. Thank you, Schlockhor. Family motto. Family motto. Yes. Shrugs. Family motto indeed. Thank you very much, my friends, and cheers.